Hello. I almost forgot how to do things, man. It's been a while. Not too long, but long enough where I'm like, if you hear Riley in the background, he is playing with friends, playing Battlefield. Where have I been? I said in a community post, and I also posted on my Twitter, which I don't do often. I usually just reblog things. Or whatever it's called on Twitter. I'm a Tumblr person at heart. Anyway, about what was going on. Part of it is I was sleepy. But also, God, it's so annoying. What the fuck is going on? Sorry. Stream Elements, which is what I use for a lot of my things, such as my chat overlay and things like that, might be shutting down. We don't know yet. They're in talks to not shut down. But anyway, the crux of it is I had a realization. I was like, maybe I should just move stuff off of something that could shut down and leave me kind of, in the middle of the street. I love Stream Elements, don't get me wrong. I love Stream Elements. They're great. They're fantastic. However, I decided I should probably move some stuff over to something else. Something that's local to my PC and is not going to be affected if stuff shuts down. So, we have StreamerBot. Which will take care of some things. I am trying to figure out how to add currency. Because obviously there's Twitch currency, or coirency as I call it, and then I had macarons, which users could use and still can at this current point in time for certain redeems, like sounds, and you can play roulette and have a grand old time. I'm trying to figure out how to get something similar through StreamerBot. Oh my god, it's been a whole thing. I don't have that figured out yet, but I have all of my alerts. Those are working. Those are through StreamerBot. I moved my tips over to Ko-fi or Ko-fi. I prefer Ko-fi because, that's the comparison. Anyways, so I moved all that stuff over. All the alerts work, or should. I mean, when I tested them, they all work. And yeah. So, that's good. I don't know what I'm doing tonight. If you can't tell, I have no idea. Might be a shorter stream until I get back in the rhythm with it. I don't know. I'm hoping, my biggest fear is it slows down my stream PC even more. Like I said, I usually just reblog on Twitter or whatever it's called, and it's usually giveaways for like PCs or like PC parts. Cause I'm really trying. But yeah, I don't know, man. We're trying. We are trying. Ignore Riley. I know we all love him, but just ignore him. But yeah, StreamerBot has a high learning curve, and it's kind of insane. Very useful, very difficult for me to understand. I spent so long on it, but it is more, once you understand the alert side of it, it's more tedious than anything to set it all up, especially if you have like variations of alerts like I do. So the alerts won't look the exact same, but that's okay. I mean, the crux of them, the animations are all the same, but like the text and stuff like that, it is a little different, but it's fine. It's okay. It all works, and that's all I care about. I think they're a bit big right now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think the alerts are a little large. So I might try and fix them. Or if I'm just, lazy and I go, yeah, that's pretty good. We'll keep it. But, yeah, they're a little large right now because God, my monitor setup is a little insane. My two PCs share a second monitor, so when I'm streaming, my stream PC uses it, and it's off to my right. I was pretty far away, and I'm blind as fuck. And then I've got a tiny monitor in front of me for the stream PC, and then, of course, my main monitor for the gaming one. Trying to see the scale of things on my second monitor, shouldn't have done that. That's how everything ended up so big. But oh well. Like I said, we will see. We will adapt. I can adjust it all. It'll just be kind of, again, tedious. Oh, fishing. Luckily, that will also be fine if Stream Elements goes. The fishing, not affected. And I love the fishing. Yee! We still have all the Stream Element stuff currently, so like roulette is still around, I believe. Actually, let me see. Oh, nice. Yeah. So that is still around currently. I just can't guarantee that it will remain around. So I will try and find a way. But, oh well. That will require more research on my end. Today on the agenda is perhaps just watching videos. Also appearing in stream reminded me that I need to look for that Excel file. Ooh, yeah. Speaking of Excel files, I actually use one as a sort of stream checklist before I go live. It's very funny. I have so much stuff that I need to open and just double check before I go live that I literally have a checklist for myself. Do I always use it? No. But, oh, thank you. Thank you for the sub. Why didn't the alert work? I was so happy that the alerts worked. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's kind of deafening. There it is. They work. I was about to lose it. They're a little big. I was literally about to scream. Because I was thinking to myself, spent all that time, and for what? Wonder if it only goes when I share my streak. Maybe. As long as it works, I do not care. I'm very pleased. Fuck. Amen. I'm glad. I could just follow on my mod account. I don't want to do that because Twitch will be like, inflating followers? No, bad. So I've never followed myself on my bot account or whatever. But I've had that bot account for years. I made it. God, I don't even know when. I could check its profile. The Anxious Macaron bot. I made it back in 2018. And I Twitch knows I have it because I had to email them because it was under an email that I did not I still don't remember the login to. So I emailed them and I was like, "Hey, this is my bot account that I use for like bot things. Can you just like link it to my current email?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're good." But a part of me is like, if I follow myself, they're gonna get mad at me. But oh my god, I used to use it with Streamlabs. Streamlabs had a similar thing to StreamerBot. It wasn't exact, but it was very similar. Oh, nice. Nice. I think I can actually set up alerts for like streaks as well. But oh my god. I was tired. I was giving myself a migraine. Part of me wants to watch this bizarre bub video and see what he's got going on. But I don't know. Oh. But yeah, I also, oh my god, I also forgot, I used ground control, which was also an extension of Stream Elements. I also had to get rid of that. But StreamerBot has like things to integrate into OBS. So that was good. That was good. Is it perfect? No. But that's fine. Nothing will be perfect. My streams will always be a little scuffed. Do we want to watch some bizarre bub? I don't know. Oh, they're making a spider noir show or movie. I can't tell. Hold on. Let me mute this real quick so I can figure this out. I see a trailer is why. It's arriving on May 27th, so all the info I got so far. Actually, if it's on Prime Video, it's most likely a show, no? I don't know. I think it is a film. I think it is. We can watch that trailer. I wonder if Nick Cage is in it. I'm just worried that Prime Video will get mad at me. They don't know who I am. I think I'll be fine. I think I'll be fine. Let's see. Boom. Mute that. And I hope this isn't too loud, but
have you seen it out there? The city's a mess. You used to be.
I know who I used to be.
oh.
I know who I am now. I'm starting over.
Are you gonna be a dick about it?
Yes, actually, a private dick, to be exact.
My friend disappeared. You're an investigator. Investigate.
I don't think I'm gonna watch the entire thing because I'm afraid that YouTube's gonna get mad at me, but I actually didn't expect him to fully be here, but he is! Wowie! I don't want this stream to be copyright, though. Oh, that would suck. Very neat, though. The cowardice caught up to me 40 seconds in the trailer. I've watched trailers for some things. Oh, Shark Cam. Oh. Oh my god, okay. I saw, not to, this is the only time I'll mention anything remotely political in my streams, kind of, whatever. I saw people complaining that quote-unquote poor people were allowed to go to the aquarium for free, and it's like, y'all need to stop. Why would you get mad at that? Why? Why would you do that?
In the following video.
Hold on, Bizarre Bub. Hold on, man. We're gonna watch some Bizarre Bub. This is 30 minutes? Would that not be? Exactly! Like, why does it matter? I'm happy that poor people that normally can't afford to go to the aquarium can just go. That's great! Like, the things that people complain about confound me. I can't feasibly understand. Like, I just don't get it. Like, people who are not as, I don't even know how to phrase that. I hate saying poor people. I'm still a poor person. But anyways, people who are not as fortunate to have a lot of, you know, resources available or have a lot of money, they're still allowed to have nice things. Believe it or not. Jesus. Anyways. It's silliness. It's just outright silliness. But we're gonna wash away the silliness with some Bizarre Bub, who is also silly, but for different reasons. Some spoopy videos that I find very funny, and recreational activities should be enjoyed by all regardless of economic status. Exactly. And I just don't understand anyone who disagrees with that statement. Like, it's wild. We live in a fucked up world, man. There'd be people that disagree with that. That woman drilled these words into me, and now I'm using it. Beautiful. I would love to shake her hand. Because that is, it's so good. That's a good thing to tell young people, especially. Yeah. Yes. Some people need to be, like, taken by the shoulders and have that just drilled into their head at the age of 50 because they just don't get it. She's drilled a lot of things into me. Hopefully all good things. But one word that reminds me of her is let me Google how to spell it. Okay. I could turn into Spoopy Ghost Chimera, but I'm feeling a little lazy, not gonna lie. I do have 2 models that I have yet to debut. Ugh. Delinquent. Delinquent is such a fun word, ignoring, you know, its meaning. It's a fun word to say. The first time she started teaching my class... Oh, I should let you finish typing. It was her most used word for a few months. I need to use it more. It's such a good word. Like, every time she would call people delinquents. Dude, there are so many delinquents. At a point, I just started using it in her honor. That's amazing. There are many a delinquent in this world. Actually, I want to see something. I don't know if I can do this, but we're gonna see if I can. Oh, I wonder. Now I use it as a funny insult on my friends IRL. Fair, fair. Only the ones who were in the class with me. No, that still abruptly cuts off. Damn. I was seeing if I added like a transition filter if it would work, but no. But anyways, we are going to watch Spoopy Bub. Even though it's, again, not usually very scary, but I want something to do. I know he has his watermark, but let me do something real quick. Up is your... Does he put a space between? No, no space. Gotcha, gotcha. I gotcha, bub. I gotcha, bub. Okay. And then we can put that there. We'll make it a bit smaller. It's a bit much. I say it's a bit much, but it's fine. It's just a little large. Let's do... Ignore that. That was my PC, not yours. I'm just trying to do something. It's a little bit big. And I'd like to make it a little bit smaller. There we go.
In the following video, a nervous daughter records her mother who's trying to capture a rat that's hiding inside their laundry room. It's a seemingly funny moment caught on camera, but this video stops being humorous when a certain detail gets pointed out that neither the mom nor daughter had realized until later. Somewhere in this clip, something very unsettling was caught on camera besides the rat. Watch closely.
There's this huge freaking rat in our living room. Or not our living room, in our laundry room right now. Oh my god. Oh wait, okay, let me try to open the door. Hold on. Oh my god, it's right there.
Oh, that is a big fucking rat, actually. Holy shit.
Mom, you gotta get it. Mom, I'm gonna try. I'm sorry. Get the baby, Mom.
On the other side of this door, a shape resembling a head can be seen
Oh.
pressing up against the metal mesh on the wooden frame. It's up close, as if seemingly gazing at the mother and daughter, who were already spooked enough by the massive rodent. If the size of this rat hadn't already terrified them, then surely this has. Now what's really strange about this is that this wasn't there initially. If nothing was there previously, then how did this show up?
So this is the hallway that me and my daughter saw the rat go into our cat door in our laundry. For some reason, I never felt comfortable in here. I felt very... It's not surprising that we caught something in that window. It's very odd, and it makes me feel so uncomfortable.
Neither Catalina, the mother, nor her daughter had noticed it or have any clue as to what this was. But recently, another video was shared by Catalina, which not only is just as creepy, but might explain what this was.
This is my son Jason. He is autistic and he is playing with his camera, which is in this toy car. This is a toy he used to capture the ghosts.
Only weeks after this incident, Catalina's son accidentally captures something on his toy camera inside the laundry room. While using the wireless camera on his remote to chase their dog around the house, her son captures this.
Honestly, I would just assume that was like a TV in the background, personally. But, you know. Still weird, though. They jump scared us with the dog. Good God, man. Oh. Okay. Okay. I was more so wondering why it kept opening and closing. I know it said automatic. Oh, hello. But yeah, like it's staying
Catalina jumped out of her
open.
chair upon seeing the dog. It's what happened before this that makes her skin crawl. Firstly, when the toy car drove into the laundry room, a voice can be heard. Mind you, that no one else had been inside, let alone downstairs where the laundry room is at. Like the silhouette that was in here before, this cryptic voice has no traceable source. But perhaps the creepiest part isn't what happens here, but instead what happens outside. As the automatic pet door opens and closes repeatedly, a single piece of a playmat goes flying off before landing in front of the pet entrance. But it's the fact that only one piece flies off while the rest stay put that's pretty strange.
What we think? Like a wire attached to the one, and then the other's glued. I don't know. That is weird. But I also can't fathom a ghost taking the time out of its day to purposely only take a single square, you know? I don't know, man. I guess if your goal is to scare a child, sure. But who knows if he was even bothered. I think it's mostly the mom that's concerned.
Wind, in this case, if any, may not be able to explain this. It just rips off, as if plucked by a child who's having a tantrum. But to Catalina, whatever threw this was aiming for the car. Whether ghost or not, she's deeply unsettled by what was captured both inside and outside her house.
As you can see, when I pull this one apart, it's very hard. And it just flew up.
Given the whole incident with the rat and the shadow figure, plus this, she can't help but think something haunts her home. If so, she hopes that it's someone she once knew.
I like to think that it was my grandmother because she was always close to me. And I always felt like she was around me and protecting me.
Currently, she continues to be on the lookout for any more strange occurrences in her house. But for now, this whole situation remains a mystery.
I get it, but it's so funny to me to think just grandma hanging out in the laundry room with a giant ass rat, which by the way, that rat was huge. Like holy shit, man. That rat, that's the boss rat. But anyways, I also question why she would rip part of a playmat to try and hit the car. Actually, you know what? No, that's peak grandma behavior because she's like, stop driving that thing in the house. You're gonna wreck the floors. Peak grandma. Or at least that's what my grandma would do. She would she would get so mad. Giant rat though. Oh my god. I still can't get over that.
Now, this
I love
next one
rats,
comes
though.
from an Uber Eats driver who was driving past a cemetery when this happened. In the 4 years that Marcus Wilson has been delivering food for Uber Eats, never has he ever been so afraid of coming back to this neighborhood, and for good reason. On the night of April 28, 2026, Marcus was on his way to drop off an order when he realized that the road he was on was surrounded by not one, but two massive plots of land entirely filled with grave sites.
See these two lanes right here? This is where I was at, man. This one, this whole lane right here are nothing but cemeteries.
Although he's driven to some sketchy areas before, nothing could have prepared him for what was caught on his dash cam. Take a look.
Cemetery. Let's call it cemetery.
Oh.
Marcus didn't see it happen, but something from outside darts into his car. He was sure that during this time his windows had been rolled up, which you can clearly see in this footage, but somehow, whatever this is, manages to get in. Neither flinching nor having any reaction whatsoever, Marcus is completely oblivious to the fleeting object. To him, it's no surprise that something like this would happen at a cemetery, let alone two of them.
This is where I was at, man.
But nothing is as baffling as what happens next when Marcus finishes delivering the food he was carrying. Now, it's important to note that the reason he shares this video is because he suspects it has some connection to what occurred after he dropped off the food. Just minutes after arriving to the address, Marcus paces back and forth outside of his vehicle, terrified of going back inside. Take a look.
Do what you.
But before we get to that, my first assumption was that it was a bug, but the slow, how do I put that? The slow-mo has me wondering. It looked almost too big to be a bug, but my first assumption was that was a moth. I don't know, man. Also, I apologize for the pausing. I don't want this to be non-transformative, just sitting there staring at the screen. I do want to add commentary to it, but I also have this thing where I hate interrupting other people. So as Bub or even the people in the videos are talking, I hate pausing even if I have something to say. So I'm trying to wait for a portion where I can safely pause and be like, yes, this is what I think about this. So yeah, there's that. Oh, that's me talking. Why is that me? Oh, okay, never mind. Wrong person. Oh, right, I forgot to mention. The bot speaks in both channels now, so both on YouTube and on Twitch. Totally forgot about that. I was so confused because obviously my YouTube quote unquote bot has my Twitch name because anyways, whatever, it's fine. Continuing.
Usually Uber eating, dropping off some food. I swear this. I have all address gotta be set by a cemetery. Right? I see this again. I'm not gonna accept it. So I'll tell you that. So make sure I'm not tripping. Make sure I'm not tripping. So, I'm dropping off the DoorDash. The Uber Eating. I can't even get my daggone company straight. And you're gonna see a vibration. You're gonna see tapping at the window. He's definitely gonna hear it.
Oh. I mean, I would assume that is wind, personally.
Hell no. Hell no.
What is that, though? Is that a shoe? Or is it... I actually can't tell what that is. Zoom, sir, I am blind. Looks like a shoe. Like a van-type shoe.
Tripping.
So I guess wind wouldn't be able to move it.
Oh, hell no. 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 Okay. No.
I'm gonna be so real with you. I would have been gone yesterday. As soon as the shoe moved, even if it was wind, I would have been gone. I would not have. I would not still be sitting here. Personally, I don't know why he's doing it.
Oh, hell, what the
Buddy, leave. Drive away.
hell? No. Hell. No. Nope. No. No. No.
Marcus was so shaken up by this incident that he now flat out refuses any orders from places near cemeteries. A shoe seemingly comes alive as it zips across and creeps forward, and out of nowhere, the door handle to the passenger side begins to pull by itself, as if someone was trying to get in. But as Marcus shows us, no one was outside. But then, as if finally getting a firm grip on the handle, something opens the door. Now, while each thing that happens is creepy on its own, it's looking at everything collectively that paints a terrifying picture. Could it be that whatever had been outside was trying to lure him out of his car using a shoe? Or were these all just random occurrences? With an entire cemetery as a backdrop, it's understandable why many would think that this is undeniably paranormal. But of course, what do you think? Marcus is certain that it is, aside from being sure that he won't be coming back anytime soon. Now, over in Houston, Texas is an abandoned apartment complex that's been sitting empty for quite some time. There doesn't seem to be anyone living on this property, and perhaps it's best that it stays that way, because according to Joe Galindo, in 2019, his mother recorded something while living in this building that to this day keeps him up at night. As Joe writes, in 2019, my mom told me she was fighting demons, but I didn't believe her, so she sent me proof. The following is what his mother recorded while pretending to be asleep. Apparently, it doesn't come out if she's awake. Watch closely.
Okay, just to play devil's advocate, right? I don't know if some people have phones where you can record when it's locked. I have no idea. I have no idea her recording setup for this. Or if she normally sleeps with her phone on. No idea. I don't know if it's like a Riley situation where she'll fall asleep watching videos. No idea. But I'm I'm assuming, right, that the demon would feasibly see that she is recording. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I can check. Oh, that's smart. I'm gonna check my phone too, actually. That's such a smart idea. Because I've never tried personally, but we're doing an experiment to test the the feasibleness of this. All right, and then I'm gonna lock my phone, and I'm just gonna hold it for a little bit. Okay, let's unlock. Did it? No, mine stopped recording when I locked it, so my phone personally can't do that. That isn't to say that no phone can, but it does bring into question a few things. I know you can get those screen dimmers. I have a screen dimmer on my phone, and it used to be able to dim the screen all the way to black, but yeah. I'm suspect. I'm thinking, you know, even if there was a demon here, he knew. He knew she was awake. Mine didn't continue recording. Yeah, mine also stopped when I locked. Yeah, I bet you it's like a safety so you don't literally record a 5-hour video, but I have no idea. Um, just something I immediately was suspect. Maybe she's using a GoPro. Have no idea. I no idea. Just something to think about. She's fake snoring, I'm assuming, too. You know what? Fair enough. Oh. I'm sorry, the emojis.
Seeing the video, Joe no longer thought that his mom was crazy. In her kitchen, something above appears to poke out from behind the doorway. But as if Joe wasn't already disturbed enough, he takes a screenshot, brightens it up, and sees this. What looks like a faceless figure can be seen hanging upside down from the ceiling. While some say that a face can be seen here, many agree that it's hard to tell. But the fact that its features are indiscernible only makes it that much more unsettling. As some believe, this might have been something beyond human comprehension. Now the video ends here, but it's assumed that Joe's mother kept watching this figure before she passed out from being tired. The next day, she sent him this video. So then, had something paranormal taken place at this now abandoned apartment? Or was something else going on here? It's hard to say, but if something supernatural was actually there, then Joe can rest assured that it won't be messing with his mom, as she no longer lives in this complex.
I had a thought, and then I lost the thought. It was creepy, for sure. I would not remain that calm. I don't know if she was fake snoring or if whoever she lives with was snoring and she was just laying next to them, recording the demons and just remaining calm. Props to her. I would not be remaining calm if I saw something like that, and I knew for a fact that no one in my house was doing it. Do you know that the guy, the chills guy, I forgot his name. Oh, I don't think so, but maybe. Maybe. I'm not sure. but like his voice was iconic like years ago. If you can find a video, you can send it in the Discord and I'll take a look at it. Because off the top of my head, he would do video countdowns of creepy stuff, and it would be this monotone kind of voice. Oh, wait, actually, I think I do know what you're talking about. I don't know what his name is, though. But I think I do remember who you're talking about. I'm gonna take a drink of water, so if you hear random clicks, that's me opening my bottle. But yeah, as soon as you said monotone kind of voice, it clicked. Yeah, I don't know what his name. Like, this is so creepy. And it's like, I can't explain it. That's fair. That's fair. I'll probably, if you can't find it, I'll probably go on a search for it later, not gonna lie. How do I change my voice in text? Oh, my shoulder's been so sore lately.
On February 25th, 2025, a man named Tavo posted a video that his grandmother took when she and a friend spotted something outside her window that caused them to back away immediately.
Oh God, be careful, Bab.
They were cautious in keeping their distance from the glass panes, but not because of something they saw on the street or inside another building, but because of something that was right at their window. It was on a Tuesday afternoon during a family reunion that a shadow suddenly appeared behind the sheer curtains. It was pretty evident that a stranger was right outside and possibly trying to get in, but they weren't ready for what came next, because much to their disbelief, this happens.
Oh God, be careful, Bab.
Oh. Let me check the Discord. Let me look. Oh, okay. Let me copy this. I will put it into here.
A phone. If you're enjoying the episode so
Oh my
far,
God!
hit subscribe
Yes,
and leave a
him!
like.
That was exactly the guy I was thinking of, but I couldn't remember his name. But yeah, it literally is just chills. As soon as this dude, okay, when did he do a face reveal? That's new to me. That's crazy. Yeah, I do. That's so crazy. Oh my God. Yeah, I was fast forwarding around for something that really channeled it. Oh my God, that was it. Oh, that is so good. Oh, that is so good. That's so good. Really give the vibe of the voice. Oh, it did. Anyways, what I was gonna say about this is it almost reminds me of a shadow, like on their side of a shadow of someone doing something, but they're kind of standing in front of it. So I don't even remember why we were talking about him. I have no idea. It's all good though.
What they saw, or rather, what they didn't see, left them completely astounded. The supposed stranger they swore was outside the window wasn't actually there. In fact, he was never there to begin with. Upon pulling back the curtain to see who was there, they see this. Nothing. Now, it wasn't just nothing according to Tavo, who got this video from his grandmother. Something had actually been there. To him, this had to be some sort of supernatural entity that paid his grandmother and her friend a visit. It's been a year now since the video was posted, but despite how much time has passed, Tavo and his grandma still wonder just what had been outside.
Yeah, I don't really have an explanation for that one, because like I said, if it was a shadow from like the inside of the room where they are, then they would also be casting shadows. I don't know. I feel like there's some trickery you could do, but I don't have an answer. Do you know like Mr. Ballin? He does more like creepy to like IRL story time. I've heard of him. I don't know if I've watched much of his content though. Not because like I'm not interested, but I just don't think I've really delved deep. Usually his videos are really long and it's on one or a few stories. Ooh. Mr. Ballin. Oh. Okay. Oh, I recognize him. I don't think I've watched any of his videos, but I've seen other people watch his videos. I definitely need to watch some of his though, because some of the topics he's covered have been really interesting looking. Also, love the goats. Love the goats already. That one, I'm bookmarking. Love the goats. Ooh, these would be fun. Yeah.
Now, the following video comes from a woman named Giselle Duran, who was recently forced to leave her apartment in the middle of the night. Pretty much everyone who's seen this video was left confused on why Giselle was crying inconsolably. It was very odd that she would put this video out there, but after looking at her page and going through all her posts, it didn't take long for many to see why she was so paranoid. For the past few months, Giselle Duran has been sharing clips that were captured by her security camera. They're mostly just recordings of her living room, but in each one, something happens that many believe has led up to the recent breakdown she had. It goes without saying, but these next few clips are nothing short of unsettling. It all started with a video she posted in late March 2026 when Giselle was home alone doing laundry. But then, out of nowhere, this happens. Now, it may not seem like much, but this occurrence marks the first time something.
I don't think that's her cell phone. Those look like AirPods or something. And what I was gonna say is that's how do I explain this? Something like that's happened to me, but I don't think it was paranormal. I think the tension on the cord was just a little too tight. So while it was keeping its place for a little bit, it just slowly started moving and fell. But that would have irritated the fuck out of me because holy shit. Stuff nowadays is so fragile. Every time something falls on the floor, I'm always so scared it'll break. Ugh.
Strange happened in her apartment. Thinking that the whole incident with her flying phone was just a random one-time occurrence, she was caught completely off guard when something like this happened again. Only this time, she didn't think it was random. On March 28, 2026, she recorded this. It was at this point where she began to think that maybe something is messing with her. Like someone who didn't want the lights off, they immediately turn on as soon as Giselle turns them off. It was definitely strange, but especially so when looking back at the previous occurrence. Maybe what happened there wasn't so random. Now, although neither encounter was enough to freak her out just yet, one incident came close to doing that, and it's what happened on April 2nd of 2026. While Giselle was fixing a shoelace inside her closet, this happens. Now, it might be hard to notice, but something happens within this area that sets Giselle on edge. You won't really spot it at regular speed, but if you scrub the footage back and forth, you'll notice that the bag on the table begins to move, almost as if coming alive. This of course freaked out Giselle, which led her to take action. Like other instances, she couldn't explain how it moved, nor figure out what had touched her.
I'm gonna be so for real. If it's a Walmart bag. I've had Walmart bags just move, because, you know, the slight air movement, although the timing is suspicious. Ghostly, even. But yeah, I honestly was paying attention only over... I was paying attention over here initially, because obviously the preview we got. So I thought there was something to see when she got, like, grabbed or something. So then I was paying attention over here. But yeah, I could see it in real time. It just... I don't know. You ever had a deflating Walmart bag? They exist. But I don't know. I think at this point, if I were her, I would also assume that I was haunted. Dude, if I didn't know how gravity worked, I think my house was a gravesite. Oh my god. Dude, me too. Oh, that's so fucking funny. I dropped my pen, it hit the floor. Haunted.
This is perhaps the creepiest part about this incident. Now, so far, everything that's happened up to this point has led her to believe that something isn't right with...
I have a bar for lifting at home, and that shit will move so much it needs to be positioned perfectly. Oh my god, tell me about it. There's so much shit on my desk, because I like knickknacks. If they're not positioned in the perfect way, they're constantly, like, moving. I don't assume they're haunted. I just know I'm playing Jenga. Or Tetris. Your choice. I felt like Jenga was more appropriate, though.
with her place. Any small thing that happens now makes her jump out of her skin. And the fact that she's living solo makes things worse. But as it seems...
I've woken up multiple nights with it moving, and I've thought each time that the devil was coming for me. That's fair. You know, when I'm sleeping and I hear shit moving, I'm thinking this is it. I'm gone. Like, I have some ghost stories. I'm gonna save them for October of like me growing up. I had some major ghost stories. But nowadays, if I hear something moving, I'm like, oh god. Just get it over with. My chair has a cloth on it because, you know, it gets hot in the Caribbean. Oh yeah. Oh my god, speaking of hot, it was like, I think 35 Celsius here today. Crazy. So I've thought it was a person at times. I have a blanket on my chair. It's white. So one time I came downstairs, jumped out of my skin because I turned the corner. And it was just there because I had moved it kind of like near the doorway when I had left. Oh my god.
She may not be entirely alone, because one night, after being woken up by a sound inside her room, this happens.
Obviamente no me voy a levantar a ver qué es, pero tengo miedo, estoy temblando del miedo. Si pasa... No mames. No mames. Creo que hay alguien atrás de la puerta. O algo. Tengo miedo.
Tal vez era mi imaginación, no miré mal. Pero salí corriendo de ahí porque ya no puedo. Ya no sé qué hacer. Son las 4 de la mañana. Pero sé que había algo ahí, sé que miré algo y no estoy loca. No estoy loca. Tengo que entrar a trabajar al rato y no he dormido nada. Estoy nerviosa, no
It now becomes clear as to why Giselle was so freaked out in this video. It wasn't just whatever this was that was at her door, but all the stuff before it that finally made her snap. Already feeling on edge, she bolts out of her room and pays no attention to the black shape at her door, not knowing if it was still there or not. She just wanted to get out of there as soon as possible, so she hops in her car and drives all the way to her job before parking outside and clocking in hours later. Now when she came back home eventually, she didn't find anything around her door to explain what she saw last night. It was gone, as if nothing had been there in the first place. But as her video shows, something was clearly there. From capturing things moving by themselves to recording moments where she felt a presence, Giselle has documented what she believes is clear evidence of an uninvited guest making itself at home. But of course, what do you think? While there haven't been any other strange happenings since then, she continues to look closely at these videos, hoping to find something in them that explains them. But for now, it remains unknown as to what exactly is happening inside her apartment. As always, let me know your thoughts on this one.
Honestly, the thing under the door, it kind of looked like a blanket, which doesn't say or prove anything. It literally, when it moved kind of backward, it kind of looked like a blanket. And the reason I'm saying this is because 3 cats, one of which had a habit of pulling rugs and blankets through doors. She would reach her her entire arm up to her armpit under a door and grab a blanket or a rug or a towel. If she could reach it, she would do it, and she would pull it from under the door. And it a true cat behavior. Yeah. Fuck. It's so funny, but that's why I'm like, it looked like a blanket to me. Absolutely. Oh God. I'm gonna miss that so much. It's so funny.
If you caught something creepy on camera, or if there's any ghost videos you'd like me to check out and include in the next compilation, you can send them over to scaryvideos444@gmail.com. That being said, let's get back to the video. At roughly 11:40 p.m. on a Sunday night, 2 nurses working the night shift at a dialysis clinic are getting a patient ready to go home. It's just about closing time, and only 1 patient is left to be sent home via the pickup area that's outside the clinic. But just before heading out, something catches their attention. According to Josephine, who sent me this video, someone was searching through their dumpsters and making a lot of noise. Apparently, it's a common occurrence here. But this isn't the reason she sends me this video. At the same time that Josephine and her colleague were outside, something happens inside. Thankfully, the patient in this video was okay with Josephine sharing this video. They too felt it was necessary to show this footage to others, as otherwise no one would believe them. The following is what was caught. Take a look. For some reason, the lady in the wheelchair covers up her face after letting out a scream. It's the same reaction that someone would have upon seeing something terrifying. But as it turns out, that's exactly what happened. Because according to Josephine, this patient saw a person who was seemingly disfigured and walking towards her. However, as the footage shows, no one is near. Or at least, it seems like that. Because if you look closely at the reflection on this TV screen, you'll notice what it was that terrified her. Take a look.
should have known the TV would be involved.
As it turns out, someone or something else had actually been present. On the TV screen, the shape of a dark figure suddenly appears before disappearing near the lady. At one point, it's here, but then seconds later, it's right behind her.
Oh, I
It's
didn't
as
even
if
see
the
that.
shadowy figure had only been intent on getting close to her. As Josephine writes, they really thought that she was just seeing things, but apparently that's not the case. While it's been a few months now since the time of this recording, this video continues to get pulled up at work as nurses find it hard to believe. But of course, what do you think? Just what exactly had this old lady seen inside this lobby? This one remains a mystery. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Also, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe and make sure to hit the bell icon.
I have a theory. A debunking theory. They spliced two videos together. I'm all over it. I understand. Real talk though, if they didn't, that's nutty. I was looking at the TV for a bit, and then I decided, it wouldn't be there. How could I? How could I? I was wrong. I was so wrong. It did have to do with it. Ugh. Unbelievable. Let me get rid of that since we're done with his video. We could watch a Mr. Ballin. We could go for the goats. I don't think I've been to Wyoming. I say I don't think because, you know, when you're flying places, you stop places. I don't think Wyoming has been one of them. Because besides, like, flying places and stopping at airports, I really haven't gone much anywhere. In the grand terms of things. But, say... Oh, I still find this very funny. In a good way. It unlocked something in my brain. Because I wasn't sure. I had a feeling, but I was not sure. Do we want to watch? Oh, by the way, the thumbnail of this one, the guy with the horse mask, I can't, hover over it because it'll get it to play. I'm not surprised. I'm just wondering, you know, why would you think that's a good idea to go swimming in that horse mask? I can't swim. I sink like a rock. But goodness gracious, man. You would think that that would just obviously not be a good thing to do. But, you know. A lapse of judgment, I suppose. Crab Island? Crab Island? Oh my god. Oh, totally unrelated. Totally unrelated. 2 games I've been playing recently. I played a bit of Subnautica 2 with Riley. Very, very keen on seeing the updates with that. I did see a Leviathan. He did grab me. They grabbed me. Terrifying moment. We didn't stream it because it was just to test how it is. It's enjoyable so far. I like it. And then another game, which I also don't think I'm gonna stream because it's just something this is a personal, a guilty pleasure kind of, I guess, but there's nothing to be guilty about. Forza 6. But I've just been playing that, so that's been fun. But I don't think I'll stream it because I'd have to turn on streamer mode because of all the music. And I gotta be so honest with you. Every time Idle comes on, I'm like, yes, this is what I'm here for. But it's been fun. It was nice to just be able to play a game like that off stream. Because usually all the games I play on stream all the time. Monster Hunter Stories, have not played it off stream except to grind that one time because I needed to. I was not going to do all of that on stream. It would have been miserable. Why did I get a notification and it lied to me? Much to think about. But it's nice to just have games that I can play off stream and relax to, because I don't really get that much anymore. No, I do not. So I'm trying to think. I guess Resident Evil. I was playing that off stream with Riley. We played Resident Evil 5, and then we were playing Resident Evil 6. Don't know what happened with that. we need to finish that one. But yeah, I don't know. Streaming is very fun, but then you get caught in this like cycle of only playing games for stream, and then when you're not streaming, you're just sitting there bored. Like, oh, what to do? No. Or I'll see a game and I go, oh, I should stream that. And then I never get a chance to actually play it. Sabotage. Self-sabotage, unintentionally. Watch the goats, 'cause I'm very keen. Is it wrong opera, wrong brave? Oh, hiccups. Position.
Tonight, I'm going to share
Ooh.
one of the most incredible alien abduction stories ever. But
Do not
before we
expect
get into that
aliens.
story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right campfire, because that's all we do, and we upload 2, 3, even 4 times every week. So, if that's of interest to you, the next time you go camping with the like button, wait until they're about to fall asleep, and then just pour a ton of itching powder in their only sleeping bag. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads.
I am immediately jealous of this man because I think he has a coffee and I want one. I want a cappuccino so bad. But it is 10 p.m. and if I do that, I am not helping my body. I am not helping anything by doing that. So I will resist, but just know I'm looking at that coffee and I want it so bad.
Okay, let's get into tonight's story.
Oh.
Around 3:30 p.m. on October 25th, 1974, a 41-year-old man named Carl Higdon drove his work truck along a paved road in the Medicine Bow National Forest, which is this huge nature preserve in southern Wyoming. Carl had taken off early from his job on an oil rig to go elk hunting in this preserve, and now he was heading towards this very specific area in the National Forest called McMarty Canyon that he had heard was really good for elk hunting. As Carl drove, he found himself looking around at the evergreen trees and the snow-capped mountains in the distance, and he just felt this total sense of calm come over him. He was a very rugged outdoorsman, and there was really nothing he loved more than spending time out in nature all alone. And so for a little while, he was just enjoying himself, driving along, until eventually the paved road he was on gave way to this long, rocky trail. And Carl, he didn't want to damage the truck he was driving, since it actually belonged to the company he worked for, so he wound up pulling over and getting out, and then he just grabbed all his stuff and continued walking on the trail by foot. The hike along this trail was not only, pretty rocky and rough, but it was also predominantly uphill, and so it didn't take long before Carl was having trouble breathing. And not just because it was physically taxing, but also because when he was younger, he had tuberculosis, which had left his lungs really riddled with scar tissue that did make it harder to breathe, especially when he was exerting himself. But, Carl continued on, and every few minutes he would just stop and bend over and catch his breath. But after about 30 minutes or so, he had hiked to the point where the trees had begun to thin out, and then he found himself standing inside what looked like a big bowl in the earth. So this was McMarty Canyon, where he was, intending to go for this elk hunt. And, the reason it sort of felt like a bowl is because it was mostly just flat with some shrubs and grass, a few trees, and these tall hills out on the sides, sort of giving this impression of a bowl. And so Carl, he sort of just stopped and took stock of the area. And wouldn't you know it, when he looked straight across the canyon, the bowl, he saw a group of just 5 elk grazing in the distance. Like, this was unbelievably lucky. Here they are right away. And so Carl slowly began walking towards them, doing his best not to make any noise. And then when he was within shooting distance, he just stopped, raised his rifle, and he looked through his sights to aim at the first elk he saw, and then he pulled the trigger. But for some reason, when he pulled the trigger, the gun didn't go off. It didn't fire, or at least it didn't appear to. And certainly there wasn't any kickback. It just was like nothing happened. But then he saw something that just didn't make any logical sense. And at the same time he's experiencing this just insane phenomenon, he felt this massive wave of vertigo, and then he just sort of felt himself falling, and then he blacked out. The next thing Carl knew, he felt himself being shaken back and forth. And he sort of slowly began to blink his eyes, feeling very confused and disoriented. His head was pounding, it was clearly dark outside. And then he realized, sort of with horror, that somehow he was back inside of his work truck, but the surroundings outside of the truck definitely looked different. Like the truck was parked in a different spot than where he'd left it.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt here briefly because I want to try something. Ignore that. I don't want that on. I want that off. I want to try something. Hold on. Maybe here. I want it to look like I am with him at the fire. Oh. Okay, wait. What? This is not what I wanted, but that's crazy. Whoopsie. I gotta find it. Maybe there isn't. I don't want to. I don't want to open up Shoost right now, but I was hoping I could get it to look like I was also sitting by the fire with him. I thought that would be chill, but then I realized if I start changing a bunch of effects while this dude's talking, it's gonna be distracting anyway. So I might as well pause and explain what the fuck I'm trying to do. But I'm realizing, I don't actually know. I don't know if that's a thing I can do. I do find it very funny though. If I hit done, hold on. I want to test something just to make sure. Okay, that still does work. Cool. Awesome possum. Ironically, I think if I did... No, because that's backlight. Okay, never mind. We can't do what I want to do. That's fine. We'll let him explain. We'll let him continue telling the story. I don't feel like opening Shoost, and maybe I should, but that would take too long, I feel. Even though it would make it more cozy, but maybe next time, if we watch more of his videos and he does more like campfire things, then I'll commit. Not now. Not now, though.
He suddenly felt himself getting shaken again, and then he heard someone say his name. And he looked up, and in the darkness, he saw there were 2 men that he didn't recognize who were clearly shaking him, trying to get his attention. And they tried to ask him, like, what was going on? But Carl's mouth sort of felt numb. And when he tried to speak, it's like the words came out garbled and nonsensical. And so at some point, these 2 men sort of gave up trying to talk to Carl, and they just lifted him up, pulled him out of the truck, and they carried him over to their vehicle. And, you know, Carl heard them say something about a hospital, and then before long, their car was driving off, and then Carl blacked out again. About 30 minutes later, around midnight on October 26th, so this is 8 hours after Carl first blacked out, his wife Marjorie rushed into a hospital room at the Carbon County Memorial Hospital in Rawlins, Wyoming. And inside, she saw Carl lying on the bed, hooked up to an IV, and there were a bunch of monitors with a nurse standing beside him. And she saw, you know, her husband's eyes were open, but clearly unfocused. And then as Marjorie is just standing there, taking in the initial shock of what she's seeing, the nurse actually pointed at her, at Marjorie, and then asked Carl if he knew who she, his wife, who she was. But Carl, he turned and he looked at Marjorie, but he just kind of stared blankly and then shook his head and said no. So earlier that evening, Marjorie had been at home, waiting for Carl to come back from his hunting trip. But when he hadn't shown up on time, she ultimately had called the sheriff's department and asked them to go to McMarty Canyon just to check on him. And so 2 deputies had gone out there and they found him, and he was unconscious in his truck. So those 2 deputies were the ones who obviously shook him awake and took him to the hospital. But interestingly, beyond the fact that the deputies had no idea what happened to him, they reported that his truck had been parked 3 miles away from the main road in this muddy bog, and strangely, there were no tire tracks leading to it. It was almost like it was just dropped in the bog with, Carl inside of it. But, despite this weirdness, the deputies, and Marjorie for that matter, were not concerned about, the weirdness around the truck. They were worried about Carl, who's just laying here unconscious. And so
I hate to interrupt. If the mud was deep enough, theoretically, I think you could cover the tracks. However, if it's like that not so deep mud where it's like still pretty solid, I think it would be difficult to then cover the tracks. So there is that.
So they had rushed him to the hospital, and Marjorie had driven there as fast as she could. A doctor had already explained to Marjorie that her husband was, clearly very disoriented and seemed to be suffering from a case of amnesia. He couldn't even remember his own name, let alone, what had happened to him while he was out in that canyon before the deputies showed up and found him passed out in his truck. Doctors had given Carl x-rays and brain scans and run all kinds of tests on him, but not only did they not find any evidence of some sort of head injury, that likely would have caused his amnesia, but they actually didn't find anything wrong with him at all. He seemed perfectly fine beyond him just showing up basically unconscious and disoriented. And so realistically, the staff told Marjorie that because they couldn't really find anything wrong with him, they didn't really know how to treat him. And so for now, Carl was just being kept in the hospital under constant observation. And so Marjorie just took a seat on the couch next to her husband's bed, sort of not even sure what to think of this whole situation. And she was about to ask the nurse a couple of questions, but then suddenly Carl sort of tensed up and began frantically looking around the room, like he really had something in mind that he was looking for. And then he began saying, like, "Where are my pills?" Marjorie had no idea what pills her husband was talking about, and it was clear the nurse also didn't know what he was talking about. And so Marjorie, she reached out and just tried to grab her husband's hand to try to calm him down. But the moment she did that, Carl sort of stopped what he was doing and he yanked his hand away and stared at her like she was a total stranger. 2 days later, Carl still could not remember what had happened to him when he had gone hunting. But he had recovered some basic memories, like his own name and also who his wife was. And so between that and the fact that realistically Carl did not have any signs of any physical injury, they ultimately, the hospital, discharged him and just sent him home with Marjorie and basically told her that he was probably fine and that he probably just needed to be in a familiar place to sort of recover all of his memories and get back to normal. However, when the couple got back home, it very quickly became clear to Marjorie that Carl was not okay and he was not getting better. For the most part, Carl was just unusually quiet at home, like uncharacteristically quiet. And then when he would speak, it often was in that frantic sort of nonsensical way that he had spoken in the hospital when he was, looking for his pills. And in fact, when he was home, he did continue to suddenly start looking for his pills. And then also he began telling Marjorie that, somebody had stolen his elk. Marjorie would try to ask him, like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean your pills? What do you mean somebody took your elk? Like, what are you talking about? But Carl didn't even seem to know. Like, he would have moments of recognizing that it's so crazy what he's saying, but he just didn't have the memories to be filled in. It was like Carl was just as confused by his own vague memories as his wife was. However, a few days after they got home from the hospital, Carl suddenly told his wife that he'd actually remembered something really specific about what had happened when he was hunting, like a new memory had popped up in his mind. He told her that when he was in McMarty Canyon and he saw those elk and he raised his rifle and he pulled the trigger, he said there was no sound, there was no kickback, it was like nothing had happened. But then he said something happened that like truly just didn't make logical sense. He said he realized the gun had fired, but it was like the world had slowed down and he could actually literally see the bullet leaving the rifle, but like in slow motion. Like this bullet is trickling out of the gun and slowly making its way, across the canyon, and he's just staring at this bullet, and then the bullet.
Sorry. I'm actually going to ask something because I'm curious. Can you have an adrenaline spike so high that is what you would see? Because I know when you have an adrenaline spike, things can like seemingly slow down. Like for instance, if you're falling, suddenly you're falling in slow motion. But if you had such a high adrenaline, could you see what he saw? It's a good question. I don't know. Very curious, very curious. I'm not gonna look it up. I might look up later. I don't know. The human body is a mystery in some ways. Right now I'm like listening to music with a friend, so I'm mostly lurking, but also never worry about lurking. When I watch streams, I'm 100% a lurker. There's this one super uber duper creepy video of him I watched years ago. It's called the Valley of Headless Men. Ooh. I will definitely. Hold on. Actually, we're on his thing. Valley of Headless Men. Ooh, anxiety warning. Oh. The title itself still reminds me of little me being scared of it. Ooh, we might watch this. I don't know. It depends. I feel so bad like watching this because I'm so quiet. Your name plus the warning. Great sign. Great sign. 4 years ago. It's not too long. The Annie scene at 2042 may cause anxiety. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh my. Ooh, we might get to that one. We might. But yeah, I feel bad because I'm just I don't know. I like being able to say things so I'm not just, I don't know, not adding any content to it. But I also I hate interrupting. Oh my god. Loving this so far, by the way.
Bullet seemed to strike like an invisible wall of sorts, at which point the bullet actually stopped and almost like flipped inside out and sort of flattened and then fell to the ground. And then
Okay, maybe I should have let him finish talking before I asked if that was like humanly possible for someone to see. I'd like to say this is an entertaining stream, and I'll happily be back for more of these if that does influence anything. Thank you. That makes me feel a little better because I always wonder if I'm pausing too much or not pausing enough. But I'm glad you're enjoying. I enjoy these streams too. I just don't want to like only do these streams because,
also, as the flattened inside-out bullet fell to the ground, Carl said he too fell to the ground and he blacked out. Now, when Marjorie heard this, her first thought was like, this is nonsense. This is not real. This is something maybe Carl's mind has created to fill in the gaps of his memory, because it's got to be really frustrating for him that he's got all these like fragments that he can't put together. And so maybe this is just his mind filling in the gaps with this really specific and weird imagery. But not long after hearing this story, Marjorie was doing the laundry and she was finally washing the clothes her husband had on when this whole thing happened out in the canyon. And when she reached into the pockets of his jacket to make sure they were empty before, washing the jacket, she felt something metallic. And she pulled out this round, like flat disc, this metal disc. And at first she just had no idea what it was. But then she thought about what her husband had said about the bullet from his rifle, flipping inside out and flattening and falling to the ground. She couldn't help but feel like this metallic disc that she's holding in her hand that was in her husband's jacket looks an awful lot like a bullet that has been flipped inside out and flattened. Like she couldn't believe it. Not long after this discovery of the alleged bullet, Marjorie sat next to her husband on a couch inside of an office at the University of Wisconsin. They were both sitting across from a psychology professor named Dr. Leo Sprinkle. Now, Marjorie knew this meeting was sort of a long shot, but she was hopeful that, maybe they would learn something valuable. So by this point, Carl had not recovered any other memories from his hunting trip. But after, recovering the supposed flattened bullet in her husband's jacket, Marjorie became convinced that something truly strange had happened to her husband. I mean, she obviously knew something happened out in the canyon, but now it just seemed like I don't even have any theories. for what could have happened, but something really weird must have happened. And so she and Carl were both very determined to try to figure out what happened. And so that's how they ended up in Dr. Sprinkle's office. Dr. Sprinkle was not your average psychologist. He was a really big believer in hypnosis. He practiced hypnosis.
There's something funny to me, just I guess cosmically, that they are referred to as Dr. Sprinkle and they specialize in hypnosis. I don't something about that I just really enjoy, and I wanted to share that with you. Because I don't know, Dr. Sprinkle was already pretty good. I'm thinking, okay, the last names, some of them are weird, you know. Some people got interesting last names, fun last names, odd last names. And it's even more fun when you get to put like the title of doctor in front of one of them. Dr. Sprinkle, fantastic. Dr. Sprinkle, who specializes in hypnosis, oh, that is chef's kiss. That is good. That is fantastic.
And specifically, he believed that hypnosis could potentially allow people to access repressed memories, which is exactly what Marjorie and Dr. Sprinkle, and Carl for that matter, believed was going on with Carl, that he had experienced something that was being repressed, but it was in there, you just need to find a way to access it. So, that day in the professor's office, Marjorie stayed very quiet and just observed while Dr. Sprinkle told Carl to close his eyes, to relax his head down towards his chest, and just focus on his breathing, in and out, in and out. And after several minutes of this, Dr. Sprinkle told Carl to slowly lift his head back up. And Carl did, but when he looked up, his eyes were actually still closed. And at this point, Dr. Sprinkle asked Carl to tell him what happened on October 25th when he went elk hunting in McMarty Canyon. And Carl, with his eyes still shut, began to speak really fluently. And he began telling just the most insane story Marjorie, or Dr. Sprinkle for that matter, had ever heard. Carl said, again under hypnosis here, that after he had watched that bullet leave his rifle in slow motion and hit this invisible wall and flip inside out and fall to the ground, he said that he too had fallen basically at the same speed as this bullet onto the ground, and basically he passed out. But he only blacked out for like a second. And when he opened his eyes, he said he was still lying on the grass in the middle of this canyon. Except now, standing over him was this tall, dark figure that was wearing almost like a very tight-fitting bodysuit, almost like what a scuba diver would wear. And Carl said this figure was vaguely, human-shaped, but it had very yellowish skin and very small eyes and no ears and no lips. And there were two antennas sticking out of, its forehead. And one of its arms extended into this flat stump, but the other arm seemed to have almost like a prosthetic attachment at the end of it that almost looked like a power drill. And then, in perfect English, this figure sort of looked down at Carl and just said, "How are you?" And Carl said he was so stunned by this thing speaking to him in perfect English that Carl just sort of blurted out, "Oh, pretty good, pretty good." And the figure seemed satisfied with this answer, and it went on to quickly explain that its name was Ozo 1, and it came from a planet 163,000 light years away from Earth. And it said it had no intention of hurting Carl. In fact, it said it wanted to help Carl. Then, with the hand that sort of resembled a power drill, it reached into what looked like a pocket on its bodysuit, and it pulled out this small packet containing 4 pills. And it told Carl that these pills would heal him. And then this thing offered Carl one of these pills, and Carl, for reasons he couldn't explain, just immediately took the pill and swallowed it. And then after that, Carl said that Oso 1 asked him if he wanted to go for a ride. And Carl just said, sure. So Oso 1 helped Carl off the ground, and then as soon as Carl was standing back up again, he saw there was this cube-shaped vehicle not far away. And a split second later, Carl said he was somehow inside of this vehicle, along with Oso 1, and also 2 other vaguely humanoid figures, and the 5 elk that he'd been out here hunting.
Okay. I have something funny that popped into my head as he's telling this story and being like, the The figure asks how he is, and he's just like, yeah, pretty good. And then it offers him some pills, and he just takes it, and then they end up in the vehicle or whatever. Just reminds me how some dogs must feel. You know, you see a stray dog, you go, oh, how you doing, buddy? You go, oh, you know, pretty good. Pretty good. And then you'll give him a treat and then put him in your car and take him to the vet. That's just what it reminded me of. But also hearing that the 5 elk are there too, they're having a grand old time. I am hoping, I am sure. Also, completely off the subject, I remembered I have a plugin for subtitles, and I'm debating if I should try using that. It would be going off of my mic. I do like things to be more accessible for people, hence why I turned the subtitles on this video, even though they're auto-generated. The subtitles for my voice would also be auto-generated, is partially the reason why I'm unsure if I should try turning it on, because, good God, I do not talk clearly enough, I feel, for that to be very good. I have no idea. I'm wrestling with the idea. I might do a few tests off stream. I don't know. But I figure I would mention that because, yeah, why not?
They were behind this clear wall like a containment pen within the vehicle. And Carl was seated in a chair, as was also one and the 2 other humanoids. They were all just sort of sitting there. Then Carl said he felt this powerful force push against his body, like the vehicle was moving so fast that it basically pushed him back into his seat. But less than a minute later, the vehicle just stopped, and also one said, "We're home." At this point, Carl was just suddenly standing outside of the vehicle, and he said it felt very cold and the sky was jet black. And then around Carl, the landscape was very different from planet Earth. It was very rocky and desolate without any trees or grass or really any organic-looking life anywhere. And then in front of Carl, he said he saw this massive metallic-looking tower that sort of reminded him of the Seattle Space Needle. And there was this light on the top of it that was actually so bright that Carl said when he looked at it, it sort of hurt his eyes. And so Ozzo 1 led Carl, the 2 other humanoid figures, and the elk to a door on the outside of this tower. And once they were standing outside of it, Carl said the door slid open, but instead of it sort of leading into the tower, it just led to what reminded Carl of the inside of a large elevator. And the whole group just got on board and began riding up.
The idea of 5 elk and 3 large humanoids and then just a human man all piled into one elevator. That is good. Obviously it's a big elevator, but I love how the elk are seemingly also probably just as confused, but they're going along with it. They're like, okay, sure. Do we think the elk also got pills? I'm asking because genuinely, it's a thought that has popped up into my head. I'm curious. Did the elk need healing? Did they get pills? I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm curious. I'm wondering.
And then when this elevator of sorts came to a stop and the door opened again, Carl saw this small room with metal walls and a handful of what looked like platforms on the floor. Ozzo 1 led the elk onto one of those platforms and told Carl to get on one too. And so Carl just did as he was told and stood on one of these platforms. And then out of nowhere, some kind of high-tech device emerged from these metallic walls and began sort of circling around Carl. It went from his head all the way to his toes, basically like scanning him. Carl was vaguely aware of the same process taking place to the elk as well. And then when this scanner was done, it made a beeping sound, and then Ozzo 1 looked over at Carl and told him, well, the elk are what we needed, but you're not. So we're going to take you back to Earth now. And then Carl said the next thing he knew, he was just magically back inside of his work truck, like he had somehow been transported there instantaneously, and he was being shaken awake by those 2 sheriff's deputies. And so back in Dr. Sprinkle's office, Marjorie is listening, just completely shocked by what her husband is saying, not even sure what to make of it. And then Dr. Sprinkle, at the end of Carl's story, when he got to the point where he's being shaken awake by the deputies, Dr. Sprinkle snapped his finger, and Carl kind of came to. He opened his eyes and sort of refocused, clearly out of hypnosis, And then they all just kind of sat there, like in total silence, really unsure what to say to each other. But as crazy as Carl's story sounded, there were several very strange facts about Carl's case that up to this point, nobody had been able to explain. And the story that Carl told while under hypnosis technically accounted for all of them. The first fact that this story explained was that when Carl woke up in his work truck, like magically just appeared in his work truck, it was not just 3 miles away from the main road, it was actually 3 miles away from where he had originally parked it. And this truck was just sitting in a muddy bog with no tire tracks leading up to it. So it was just totally unclear how it got there. And so if you follow along with Carl's story, perhaps when he was transported back to Earth, they, this other creature and the other humanoids maneuvered the truck with Carl in it into this bog. The second strange fact is that when Marjorie had ballistics experts analyze that flattened presumed bullet that she had found in Carl's jacket, they were just as baffled as she was. Like, they could not come up with any earthly explanation for how a bullet could be flattened and turned inside out. Like, this was not possible. And so again, if you follow Carl's story, perhaps this being is the one that flipped the bullet inside out. And the third and perhaps strangest fact is that when hospital doctors gave Carl x-rays, they found something that should have been medically impossible. All of the tuberculosis scar tissue in Carl's lungs that had plagued him for decades, that had made it so hard to be physical and exercise, they had somehow disappeared. It was as if someone or something had healed him. Despite how unbelievable Carl's story sounded, and despite the fact that hundreds of people have spent decades trying to disprove it, no one has ever found a better explanation for the moving truck, the impossible bullet, and Carl's disappearing scar tissue. Because of that, some researchers believe that Carl Higdon's account could be one of the most credible alien abduction stories ever recorded.
Very interesting.
All right, thank you all so much for joining me tonight at the campfire. And if you enjoyed this, remember, we actually have a whole playlist of campfire episodes that are ready for you to binge right now. If you want to do that, go ahead and click.
God. I love this comment. At least aliens are trying to give Americans free healthcare. Ah, shit. I wonder what they needed the elk for. I'm very curious. Why did they need the elk? Are the elk okay? I don't know. Welcome back. I think we will watch The Valley of Headless Men. Ooh, what'd you get for food? I'm so jealous. Oh, I love food. Food is so good. Ooh, chicken and chips. Yummy. Yummy. That was a good video. Enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. Also, I love how YouTube lets you hide this stuff now. It's very nice. Very nice for videos specifically where the video is not fully over.
Today's story.
Hold on. Hold on, sir. Oh my god. Why is my monitor or is it just the videos? They're being so weird. Like, right here. Strange. Oh, quick stretch. Oh, jeez. Okie dokie.
Today's story is a classic don't go in the woods type of story. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload 2 or 3 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please invite the like button over to your kid's birthday party and then ask them.
I don't have a child.
Pinata. When they say yes, put their blindfold on and then replace the pinata.
Not human children, anyway.
Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story. Located in the far northwestern section of Canada is the aptly named Northwest Territories. It is a massive swath of land that virtually nobody lives inside of. To make that point crystal clear, consider the following. The country of Germany has a population of 83 million people, give or take. The Northwest Territories is 4 times as large as Germany, but only has a population of about 50,000 people. In addition to being this huge and mostly unoccupied space, the Northwest Territories are almost completely wild. Think dense forests, huge mountains, massive rivers and lakes, and lots of really big animals. Even for highly experienced outdoors men and women, the Northwest Territories can be a truly hazardous place. And within this truly hazardous place, there is one part that is the most hazardous, and it's right in the middle of the Northwest Territories. And it's this 11,000 square mile stretch of just pure wilderness that's called the Nahanni Valley.
Actually, I'll put it to max. If you still need it raised, I can raise it in OBS, so just let me know.
In 1976, the Nahanni Valley was made into a national park. But don't let that fool you. This is not some family park that anybody can go to. There are no tourist accommodations, so there's no hotels, there's really nothing inside of it. And there are no roads that lead into this park. The only way you can get inside this valley is by plane or by boat or by very stressful and difficult overland hike. But for those who are able and willing to make the effort to get inside of this valley, you have the opportunity to explore one of the most beautiful places on the planet, because this section of the world is almost completely untouched by man. It is really nature at its purest form. However, there's a catch. This valley is said to be haunted. Over the last 10,000 years, the handful of native tribes that have attempted to settle inside of the Nahanni Valley have all either suddenly disappeared without a trace, like the Naha tribe, that literally overnight just was gone, leaving behind their shelters, their food, their supplies, just gone. No one knows what happened to them. Or the tribes have abruptly fled, claiming they were being terrorized or stalked by creatures lurking in the forest, like these white demons and these large wolves they called wahilas. Now, of course, this just sounds like folklore, and it might very well be that that's all it is, folklore. But starting in the early 1900s, some very strange things started happening in the Nahanni Valley that were not folklore.
I turned it up a little bit more. If you need it more, just let me know. I don't want to like blast it in OBS and have you go deaf. So I can still turn it up. Just let me know.
These things happened and they were horrifying. These were horrifying real events. And they might, depending on your viewpoint, give credit to some of the theories that the native tribes people have about this valley, which is there's something evil lurking out in this forest, but we just don't know what it is. In 1904, 3 brothers, Willie, Frank, and Charlie McLeod, who all lived in the Northwest Territories, decided they wanted to go looking for gold in the Nahanni Valley. They figured because so few people had ever been inside of this valley that if there was gold to be found, then certainly it had not been found yet. And so after a very long and arduous journey using sled dogs and trains and homemade boats, they finally slipped into the valley and found themselves on what's called the Flat River, which runs right through the center of the Nahanni Valley. Now, the Flat River is kind of ironically named because it's anything but flat. It's actually more like a rapid at certain points. But either way, the 3 brothers, they're on their boat, they're making their way up the Flat River, and at some point they pull off onto the riverbank and they set up camp. And then once their camp is set up, they go down to the river and they put their gold sluices in the water. A gold sluice is this long, skinny box that's usually made of wood, and it has a strainer on one side. And gold miners will put it in the water, submerged, and they will kind of shovel the sediment on the bottom of the water into this little funnel, and the big stuff will get stopped by the strainer, and the dirt and the water will just kind of flow out the side. And so the idea is you can trap gold nuggets inside of this sluice. And so the 3 brothers, they get their sluices up and they start looking for gold, and right away they hit pay dirt. There is tons of gold in this river. And so all day, all night, they get all this gold. The next morning they do the same thing, and by the time all their containers are literally filled to the brim with gold, they decide, you know, hey, let's go back and turn this in, get some money for it, and then come back out here. And so they pack.
The trauma has stayed with you. The ice shrink and the gold. I would love some gold. So someone donate a few nuggets over here.
Pack up their tent, they pack up all their supplies, and they put everything back in their boat. They get out onto Flat River, and at some point, very early on in their journey back, the boat capsizes, and the boat actually breaks apart from the strength of the rapids of Flat River. And so the boat actually just sinks, and much of their supplies sink, including all of their gold. But the three brothers are able to grab some of their supplies, like their rifle and some lumber and some of their mining supplies, and they swim it all to shore. They catch their breath. They're totally devastated at the loss of the gold, but they're alive. They have enough supplies to survive. And so they figure all they can do is maybe try to go back to their original site, try to get some more gold because they did still have a sluice, and then try to get out of there and then, regroup and come back another time. And so using some of the lumber they recovered from their broken boat, and then also by cutting down some trees, they literally fashioned another boat and then hopped back on the Flat River, and they went back up to that site where they had found gold earlier. They set up their sluice, they set up their camp again, and this time they didn't find any gold. So all day, this very disappointing day that they've already lost all their gold, now they're not finding any more gold. And so that night when they went to bed, they decided that the next day they were just gonna leave. And so the next day they get up, they pack up, they hop back on the Flat River on this new boat they built, and they're able to make their way out of the valley and get back to their homes.
No worries, man. It happens. I am eager though because the anxiety warning. You may be onto something. It's probably a slow build, Probably a slow build.
Boat they built, and they're able to make their way out of the valley and get back to their homes. As soon as they get back home, the two younger brothers, Willie and Frank, start talking about how they want to go back into Nahanni Valley and go get more gold, because now they know there's gold out there. It's not a question, yeah, we didn't find it that second time, but we know it's out there. Charlie, the older brother, he wanted to get the gold, but he felt like, hey, that was a close call with the boat flipping over. I don't know if it's a good idea, so I'm actually not going to go. You guys can go, I'm going to stay. And so several months goes by, and Frank and Willie have been doing all this preparation for this additional trip into the valley. And finally, in 1905, they're ready. And so Willie, Frank, and a third man called Robert Weir, who was a friend of theirs, he was going to replace Charlie. The three of them, they make their way up into the valley. Now, they didn't tell anyone how long they were going to be gone for, and so when they didn't send any word and no one had heard from them in weeks, Charlie was actually not that concerned because he knew there was lots of gold to be had out in the Nahanni Valley, and so he figured they must have struck it rich, and now they've decided to live out there long term, or at least maybe through the summer, or maybe the next year, and so he wasn't concerned, and because he wasn't concerned, nobody else was concerned about these three men. And so weeks turned into months, turned into a year, and still no one's heard from these three men. No one's heard from Willie, Frank, or from Robert, but still Charlie maintains that nothing can be wrong because there's three of them out there. They're incredibly experienced. There is a ton of gold out there. I'm sure they're just killing it and they're just acquiring all this gold, and we're going to see them in the next couple of months maybe, and everything's going to be just fine. But a whole other year would go by. So they've been out there for 2 years and no one has heard from them. And at this point, Charlie thinks to himself, okay, I have to go out and see if they're okay. And so he rounds up 4 other people from his town, and he mounts an expedition to head back into the Nahanni Valley to go find his 2 brothers and find Robert Weir. Charlie and his search party eventually, after yet another long and arduous journey, they get into Nahanni Valley and they get onto the Flat River. And so they start making their way upstream along Flat River. So it must have been a very treacherous journey getting through the rapids of this river. And the whole time they're scanning the left and the right side, hoping to see some sign of life. They're looking for any indication that these 3 men are out here and just fine, but they didn't see any sign of them. And so they finally made their way all the way up to the very end of Flat River, or I should say the very beginning of Flat River, where it breaks off from a much larger river called the South Nahanni River. And once they turned onto the South Nahanni River, they began going downstream. And again, they're looking on either side for any sign of these 3 men. There's no sign of them. And then the river they're on takes a very sharp turn. It's actually called the Big Bend, and it's about a 45-degree turn. And as soon as you make that turn, it dumps you into this 10-mile stretch of river called Second Canyon. Now, along South Nahanni River, which is about 350 miles long, there are these 4 canyons that the water passes through. And they're labeled 4th Canyon, 3rd Canyon, 2nd Canyon, and 1st Canyon. And these canyons are massive.
These sheer
Holy
cliffs
shit.
on either side of the river shoot up to 3,000 feet above the water, and in some parts, the water is actually just as deep, thousands of feet deep. And Second Canyon is unique because the cliff faces are as sheer as you're going to get, and the cliff faces almost butt up exactly up against the water. So there's really very little shoreline on either side. So once you're in this 10-mile stretch, you're basically boxed in. You have thousands of feet of water below you. You have these massive cliffs on either side, and there's really nowhere to go. You need to get through this section of the river before you can effectively get onto the shoreline and take a break from being in your boat. And along these cliffs are these openings you see high up all over the cliffs on both sides that are openings to these massive cave systems.
I'm sorry. I have to pause. Are those deer in there? Oh, Jesus, I hit my mic. Are those little deer just hanging out in a cave? Or is that a rock giving the illusion of deer? What the fuck? I would die in this area. Just saying, I can't swim. My balance is shit. I would just die. I would just lay down and die. They're probably... Oh my god, you're right. The minerals. They crave it. Oh, so good.
Inside of these thousands of feet tall cliffs. And because of how difficult it is to not only get to Nahanni Valley, but also to get up to these different cave openings.
Oh, you know, it never really crossed my mind that elephants do that, but that makes sense. Oh, I love elephants. They're so interesting. They're such interesting creatures.
Nobody's gone inside of them. We don't know what's inside of these caves, save for the few that are down low enough that people can explore. So as you're passing through Second Canyon, it's almost like you're being watched.
Yee, I know prehistoric aquatic reptiles would also eat rocks. Yeah. Although I think the question is, would they do it for buoyancy or the thing similar to what I think cows will also sometimes eat stones to help digest their food. Yeah, it helps churn and digest their food and their gizzards. Yeah. I don't know if it's been solidified as to what ancient aquatic reptiles did it for, but it was probably both, to be fair.
Because there's all these openings, but you can't see into them, and you're just forced to go down this 10-mile stretch, and you can't really go anywhere, and whatever's watching you, it's watching you. As soon as Charlie and his search party entered into Second Canyon, it would have immediately gotten darker, because that's another part of being in Second Canyon. These huge cliff walls of this canyon obscure the sunlight, and so they would have entered into this canyon, it would have gotten darker, and it's very windy inside of Second Canyon. So the winds would have picked up, so it's dark. Very strange setting for them to be in, and they would have been looking on either side at these little strips of shoreline on either side, barely big enough for a boat to be. They would have been looking for any sign of life, but they didn't see anything. As they're making their way down this 10-mile stretch, as they're getting closer and closer to actually entering into First Canyon, which is the next canyon you would enter into, the sides of the river start to get slightly larger, where you could actually beach a boat. There's some trees, and on the left-hand side, right before exiting Second Canyon, they notice there is actually a tent perched within some trees. And so the search party naturally goes right over to the shoreline, they hop out, but as soon as they step foot on land and they have a clearer view of this tent and what's outside of it, they notice there is a body clearly lying on the ground outside of the tent. And so Charlie...
Oh, okay, that's fine, that's fine. Thank you for the warning, though. I guess I will announce it for any other lurkers. The descriptions might get a bit graphic from here on out. At least we think. We might be wrong, but viewer discretion is advised.
In the search party, they run over, and as soon as they're up close, they can tell this body is missing its head. And they see the clothes on this body are totally charred and burned, and whoever this was, they were reaching with their right arm when they died. And right outside of the reach of their right arm was a rifle that was propped up against a tree. And so they walk around this one body, and they go around towards the backside of the tent where the opening to this tent is, and they find another body, another very badly decomposed body, and it's positioned kind of halfway in the tent and halfway out of the tent. And there's a blanket kind of partially obscuring this person's body, and when they move the blanket, they see this body too is missing its head. So Charlie and the search party, they continue to search around the camp, in hopes of finding the heads of these two people to try to figure out who they are. But they never find the heads. However, they do find some personal effects both in the pockets of these two bodies and then also inside the tent that would confirm these are Charlie's brothers. As for the third man that had been with them, Robert Weir, he was not at the campsite. And in fact, he would never actually be found officially. However, a little ways down the river, another partial skeleton would be found several months later that was attributed to Robert. However, that was not 100% confirmed to be Robert. The only other interesting thing that was found at this campsite was a carving in a nearby tree. And it just said, "We have found a fine prospect," indicating that Charlie's brothers had found gold. But there was no gold either on them or in their camp or in the river nearby. Nothing. There was no gold. Charlie and his search party would leave the valley and get in touch with the mounted police, who would come out to the site where the brothers had been found. They would launch an investigation, and ultimately they would come to the conclusion that all three of these men, the two brothers and Robert, had starved to death. And then after they had perished, animals had taken them off, which is why Robert was found so far away and why the skulls were missing from the two brothers. Now, Charlie did not believe that. He believed they had been attacked by native tribes in the area, but the police were not buying that. They said this was a natural thing, this was an accident, and so that's that. When the story of these two decapitated men made the news, people went crazy about this. People were very divided about what they thought really happened. There was a percentage of people that believed that partial skeleton that was found, that was not Robert Weir. He had not died. He had murdered the two brothers, decapitated them, and then made off with their gold. The other percentage of people believed that all three men, the two brothers and Robert, had been attacked by a person, a group of people, an animal, a creature, something. There was some sort of attack. And that's why the two brothers were in those positions that indicated they had encountered something horrifying, with one brother reaching for the gun and the other appearing to have leapt from his bed before he ultimately died. But regardless of which side you fell on, pretty much everybody at the time who heard about the story became terrified of the Nahanni Valley. Specifically, they became terrified of that stretch in Second Canyon where the two brothers had been found. And so actually that stretch got renamed the Headless Valley, and from that point forward, that's all it was known as. And so even though there were obvious gold prospects in the Headless Valley and all along the South Nahanni River and the Flat River, people after this story broke were just not prepared to risk going in there and potentially becoming another victim. And so people kind of stayed away from Nahanni Valley. 8 years later, though, in 1913, a gold prospector named Martin Jorgensen decided, you know what, I'm not going to let some scary stories about some headless men and, ghosts and killers on the loose, I'm not going to let any of that get in the way of me taking gold out of Nahanni Valley. So, all on his own, Martin makes the arduous trek inside of Nahanni Valley.
I don't know why you would ever do this alone. Like, taking 3 people, of course, you want to be in a group. If 3 people just die and you think, all right, I'm not afraid, sure, I'll play along, I would at least take more than myself. Yeah, going alone is plain idiot. Yeah, exactly. Because you're still going into the wilderness. Like, that's still dangerous. I'd bring a whole group of guys with me. Exactly. It's still dangerous. You don't want to go alone. Tell me gonna be rich. Exactly.
He makes his way up Flat River and he finally finds a spot about 70 miles upstream of where Headless Valley was. And he actually built a one-room cabin because he was going to stay there through the winter. And then the plan was he would meet up with his partners the following summer. And so right after he got there, he set up his sluices and he started mining for gold. And apparently he found a lot of it because he sent word back to his partners outside of the valley that he had made it rich. And so his partners were really excited to meet up with him.
Never know when a bear or a pack of wolves are feeling hungry and decided I'm looking extra cute and biteable. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, sure, if we're ignoring ghosts and shit, you're still dealing with wildlife. You're still gonna have to deal with that alone. Like, no, don't go alone. Bring people. Bring weapons. Don't be silly.
Him the following summer and see how much he got because they planned on going back into the valley with him that summer. So that summer rolls around, his partners go to the meeting spot right outside the valley. but Martin doesn't show up. And so his partners, they stay outside at this meeting space for several days until finally, when he doesn't show up, they decide, we have to go in there and see if he is okay. Because at this point, he should have been here. There's no...
He was trying to spook me. I heard him, he ended up just fucking hitting my arm. He tries to get clips by scaring me. Ouch. It's working.
Excuse. And so they end up going into the Nahanni Valley. They make their way up Flat River, and they go roughly to the area where they knew he was staying based on the message he had sent earlier. He had described where he was staying, and they actually found his cabin, or I should say they found what was left of his cabin. His cabin had been completely torched, burned to the ground, and laying on the ground next to the burned out cabin was the burned out remains of another headless corpse. And this corpse belonged to Martin Jorgensen. The police did a thorough investigation, but they were never able to determine what actually killed him.
Are they going to blame that on the bears too? Yeah, the bears set the cabin on fire. Ah, what a damn shame. The one corpse was on fire. Did now that the cabin and the corpse is on fire, what's their explanation for that? It was Shrek. Damn it. He got away again.
The police did not connect Martin's death with the two McLeod brothers' deaths,
Bigfoot.
even though they were all decapitated. They were in roughly the same area, and it happened within a few years of each other, and they looked very, very similar. Even though that all was true, the police said, nope, these are totally separate. Martin died for some reason, and then animals took parts of him away, and that's why his skull is missing. Martin's skull...
That sounds about right for police, to be honest with you.
Was never located, and the gold that Martin claimed to have struck it rich with was also not at the cabin, not on him. There was no gold anywhere in the vicinity. When Martin's death made the news, people went crazy, and despite the police assuring everyone that his death was not connected to the McLeod brothers' deaths, even though the police were saying that, the public didn't see it that way. It was just too easy to connect one decapitation with two other decapitations that have happened close together in a relatively short time frame, and so a lot of people assumed there must be a killer on the loose somewhere in Nahanni Valley. 7 years later, in 1921, the rumors of a killer on the loose were still alive and well when gold prospector John O'Brien and his partner decided, you know what, despite the rumors of this so-called killer or whatever's going on in the Nahanni Valley, let's go into the Nahanni Valley and try our hand. Let's try to get some gold. And so the two of them made their way into the valley, and they set up camp in Headless Valley, not far from where the McLeod brothers had been found decapitated. So they set up their camp, and they're there for a couple of days. They're doing well. They're finding gold. And then at some point, John tells his partner that he's going to go out and check all of their traps along the river, and he'll be back in about 8 or 9 days. And so his partner waits 8 or 9 days, and John doesn't come back. A couple of days after that goes by, and now John's past due, and so the partner decides he has to go out looking for him. So there was another gold prospector in the area, and so this partner contacted...
Seriously, though. Yeah, so I know everyone who goes there dies and stuff, but let's go. We surely won't die, too. We are at the infamously known to be dangerous place. Let's split up, too. I'm a genius, by the way. Literally, like, as soon as the dude's like, yeah, I'm gonna go check the traps by myself. I'll be okay. Like, what the fuck, man? Do you have a death wish? Honestly. Goodness gracious.
Contacted him, and the two of them went to the river and began walking upstream until they found John. And he had frozen to death, but it was very interesting the way he was positioned. He was sitting in front of this obviously previously lit campfire. He wasn't hunched over. He didn't look like he was in pain. He looked like he was just enjoying the fire. There was nothing on his face that indicated discomfort or pain or fear. He was even holding the matchbook in his hand. It was like he was just sitting there enjoying the fire when something caused him to suddenly freeze. In fact, witnesses would say John looked like he had been flash frozen, as if it had happened in a matter of seconds, because it didn't look like he had reacted properly to freezing to death. And the police, when they came out, they would say, you know, this is odd. This is odd the way he's positioned. But ultimately, he died because he froze to death. And so there's no foul play here. And so no further investigation is needed.
Ultimately, we have decided that the bear learned how to freeze people. My man's encountered Mr. Freeze out there.
5 years later, in 1926, a hunting party that included a young woman named Annie Lafferty was camping out along the Flat River inside of Headless Valley. And so that night, they're all kind of joking around the fire, and then at some point they decide to all go to sleep. And then the next day, when everybody gets up, Annie is no longer in camp. And there's no sign
Jesus.
of where...
Okay, that was dirty. That was dirty. I think he's had a heartbeat in the background of his audio this entire time, which has set me on edge a little bit. That was dirty. Fucking vine boom. That was unnecessary. That startled me. Jesus. Oh my god, I couldn't even pause the video properly. Fuck.
She went, and so they begin by yelling out and walking around the immediate vicinity to see maybe if she stepped away for a minute, but Annie's just gone, and no one knows where she went. And so the hunting party spends the rest of the day looking for Annie, but there's no sign of her. They ultimately leave the valley. They tell police. Police come out. There's this huge search.
Oh, horses.
Annie's never found. Several months later, a man named Charlie, who happened to have been out near Flat River, near this hunting party when they were out there, but Charlie himself was not in the hunting party. He didn't know Annie. He was just in the vicinity. He overheard someone talking about a member of that hunting party, specifically a woman, going missing. And when he heard that, he knew he had to tell police what he had seen that night out near Flat River. So he goes to police and he explains that that night when he knew there was this hunting party over there, he could hear them, he knew they were over there. He said at some point he went to bed and then he woke up when he heard the sound of rocks falling into the river in front of him. He was sleeping along the river's edge. So he sits up and he looks out across the river. It's totally dark, but there's some moonlight, and he's kind of looking around wondering what's causing the sound, but he can't see it, and then he hears it again, and he can tell it's off to his left. And these are not huge rocks. These are like medium to small size rocks, like rocks you could just pick up and throw. And so he's looking, and all of a sudden he sees, maybe a couple hundred yards away through some sparse trees, he sees a naked woman, a white naked woman, running on all fours up this mountainside. And as she's running up the mountainside, her feet and her hands are knocking little rocks into the river down below. She's right on the edge of this cliff. And as she's running up this hill, she stops and she turns and he gets a good look at her face. And Charlie would say he was so taken aback by her face. It looked like she was possessed. There was something wrong with her face. And so Charlie instinctively ducked down and chose not to follow her, even though he knew anybody running naked anywhere in the wilds is doomed. But he felt like he could not go near this woman. There was something wrong with this woman. And so the police, they take this story down and they say, hey, you know, this is what Annie looked like. And Charlie would say, I mean, I think that's her. I think that matches her description. And so
only thing I would do differently as the police, I would ask for his description. How would you describe how she looked? What color was her hair, if you could tell? That's my only thing, because I feel like when police are like, oh, was it this person? Even if unintentional, that person might project what they saw into that picture and be like, oh my God, actually, you're right. That is who I saw. Even if it may not be, because human brains, they like to insert information that isn't necessarily true into situations of greater stress. That's the only thing I would have done differently. Also, would have shit my pants if I had seen that. Like, no, thank you. Hello and goodbye, naked lady. I'm gone. Human brains autofill. Yes, they definitely do. I wouldn't have just shit my pants. I'd get a full-on heart attack. You know what? Same. My heart is not strong enough. I would just be like, all right, well, this has been a great time. I'm going to some afterlife now because I am not staying here. Goodbye. If not, then I'd start mimicking the lady. It's fine. They travel in packs. Just get on all fours. Bark at her. I would match the freak. Oh god. Try to fit in. My luck. I would not pass the vibe check. She'd attack me.
Conversely, it's believed this woman galloping up this hillside in the middle of the night naked was Annie. The police ultimately would not investigate Annie's disappearance any further because at the time Charlie was telling them this piece of information, she'd already been gone for months and the assumption was she was dead. 4 years later, in 1931, another gold prospector decides to try their luck in Headless Valley.
Oh my god,
A man
man.
named Phil Powers. He makes a
Okay. To note, I guess if you have nothing else to fucking lose, you either get gold or you die. I'm sure. Sure, man. Why not?
way into the valley. He finds a spot off a flat river. He builds a cabin, and then shortly thereafter, his cabin burns to the ground with him inside of it.
Oh.
Now, his skeleton was intact, but the strange thing about his death is based on the origin of the fire, which would have been on the roof. He should have had an opportunity to climb out of the cabin before it burned down, giving rise to the theory that he was actually dead before the fire started. However, the police said this was
Yeah, I was gonna mention cave divers. Like that's a whole thing. Spelunking, that's a whole thing. People love the adrenaline rush, I guess. Cave diving is fine. I don't know, man, personally, but doing it with the caves that flood is next level. True.
an accident caused by Phil doing something with the stovepipe that led to it catching on fire, and this was just all one big accident. But the vast majority of people that have followed along to this point with all of these strange deaths, they were just not buying it. 5 years later, in 1936, two more gold prospectors, William Epler and Joseph Mulholland, they entered the Headless Valley to try their luck, and shortly after arriving and getting set up, they went missing. A search party came out to look for them, and they found their cabin, and just like Phil Powers, it had burned to the ground.
You're basically asking for Mother Nature to change her mind on if today will or won't have rain. Exactly, yeah. I've heard too many horror stories about that. It's crazy. Ugh. Also, I would be super keen on knowing how many people have entered this valley and have been fine. Because obviously, the only one from the woman's group that went missing was the woman. So we know they lived. How many others have lived? What's the ratio here? Is it just really not good, or what's going on?
But William and Joseph were not in the ashes. They were not anywhere nearby. In fact, they were never found. No one has any idea what happened to them, and no one knows what caused the fire. 9 years later, in 1945, yet another gold prospector named Ernest Savard entered the Headless Valley to go looking for gold. And then when he did not leave the valley for an intended rendezvous with some of his partners went looking for him. And they would find him inside of his sleeping bag, laying down, decapitated right along the flat river inside of the Headless Valley. And so the police would come out, they would do an investigation, and they would call this an accident where, he starved to death or he died of hypothermia. And then after he was dead, animals must have come in and removed.
Ayo, I'm starting to blame the police here. What the fuck do you mean? Every time there's someone decapitated, damn, must have starved to death. That's a shame. I know what they're implying. I know that they're saying, oh, guess animals took the head. But I'm curious to know, just generally, was it a clean cut? Was it ragged? Because if it's a clean cut and you're saying, oh, gosh darn these bears, got him again, I'm actually gonna lose my mind. What the fuck? I guess the animals really love it. Like, literally, I get it. Like, they if they have nothing to do with this, which they most likely don't, they're probably just as freaked out and just don't want to fucking deal with it. So they're like, starved. What more can you do? Like, they probably don't want to deal with it either, but it's like, calm the fuck on, dude. Oh, my goodness. The cops are the smart ones. You know what? Fair point. I guess if you think something's wrong, paranormal-wise, ignoring it's the best option. They know they're going to get beheaded if they go snooping. True. They know they're going to get set on fire, flash frozen, turn into a naked, wild person. You know what? Fair enough.
moved his skull, and that's why we can't find it. And so the police did not, at least not publicly, connect his death to all of the other decapitations in that small area. 1 year later, in 1946, another gold miner named John Patterson went into Headless Valley, and he went missing. And so a search party went in.
Fork found in kitchen.
And John would never be found. But on one of the last nights that the search party was in the Headless Valley, they were camping out near Flat River, some native tribes people came into their camp and they warned them about some white figures that were walking around the valley that night. They're down in the river, they're out in the forest, they're kind of all around here. And so you really need to be careful. You don't want them to see you. And then these tribes people just left.
Always trust them. Okay. Oh my God. If I am told that by someone native to that area, I'm gone. I don't care if they're trying to scare me into leaving. They win. I'm gone. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Let the idiot gold diggers go in. We can chalk it up to Shrek, bad wind, bears, Mr. Freeze, and people slipping. You trust the native. Exactly. I don't care if they're lying just to get me off their land. That's fine. That's fine. You know what? Fair play. But they've been living there so long for a reason. Exactly. I will never not trust them. Like, I don't want to die. Fair play. I'm leaving. Oh, shit.
And so the search party is absolutely horrified.
They know
about the rumors of this place. They're out here looking for someone that's gone missing in this place. And all night, all they hear are distant howls and screams that they hadn't heard in the previous nights. They're hearing these wailing sounds coming from all around them, like these things that are out there were intentionally trying to scare them to get them to leave. It felt like they were not supposed to be there. The next day, first thing when they got up and they left, the leader of that search party would say he just felt like the whole valley was totally sinister, and that constant wailing they heard the night before, he said he will never forget. From the mid-1940s onward, there have been far less strange incidents reported inside of Nahanni Valley, but one could attribute that to the fact that far less people have been going into Nahanni Valley ever since the 1940s. And in recent times, huge segments of the park have been permanently closed. The park has said the reason they're doing that is to protect that segment of the park. But other people have speculated that at least part of the reason why they're closing these segments, many of which are right near the Headless Valley, is because they're trying to protect people from getting anywhere near whatever it is that's lurking inside of that park. But
it could be both. Let's just say that. It's not mutually exclusive. It could be both.
Regardless, it is still a fact that over the last century, there have been dozens and dozens and dozens of people that have either gone missing or who have died under very mysterious circumstances inside of this valley. And the truth is, nobody knows why. So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode, let us know in the comment section what it is.
That jump scare still makes me so mad. How dare you? How dare you scare me? How was it? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Man gets decapitated. Police. The wind's pretty strong today. literally, like I get it. I get it. On a base level, I understand. But what do you fucking mean, man? They've been decapitated and all their gold is gone. Probably bears or wolves, you know. Yeah, this person's saying the fact police never started trying to connect the dots make it seem like they know what is going on or at the very least suspicious. Yeah, they probably don't want anything fucking to do with that. Bears gotta buy food. You know what? Fair point. They got their own little convenience store up there in one of the caves. It gets a little expensive. The bear mafia is real. Everyone else died, but not me. I'll be fine. Every gold prospector ever, apparently. It has to be because in their minds they have nothing to lose, right? Feasibly. That is what I'm assuming here. Because there's no fucking... Well, actually... Unfortunately, human beings really are that stupid. I was going to say there's no feasible way that you think you're the outlier in that situation, but there are people that would assume that. But anyways, my little theory is they either have nothing to lose, yeah, or people making wild tales to scare people off, yeah. Because, yeah, fear-mongering. Because if they believed it, they're just like, well, I got nothing going on. Like, yep, rule of thumb, when there's a natural place/landscape that even the native tribes avoid, you should too. Absolutely. Preach. Oh, goodness. When skeletons are found in the valley with 475 carved into their left femur, then the next one is 476, the next one 477, the next one 478. Mounties. There is no connection. The wolves, they're learning to count. Oh, God, that's so fucking funny. It's tragic, but it's so funny on how kind of ridiculous it all is. Just the animals, man. Like, surely in that situation, I have to believe that they are also like, yeah, this is suspicious as fuck. Yeah, it's the same shit. We don't want any of that. They're not related, guys, because we want nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. You want to get decapitated? That's on your own time, man. Because me, I got something to do next week. I am busy, and it is not. I do not have time to die. Goodness. Also, it turns out those weren't goats, those were elk, and I see it now. The small antlers made me think they were horns, and I feel a bit ashamed. Yeah, that one was good. I honestly, the Annie scene, he's right. But I think he was hyping it up with a heartbeat. It was subtle, and I could hear it, and it was making me a little fucking freaked out. I don't have being beheaded in my to-do list for this month. Sorry, man. Exactly. And you know what? I respect that so fucking big. Because frankly, I don't want that either. I think I have something better to do, frankly. I don't know. Jeez. Crazy. I do love the way he tells stories. It's very good. Very clever tricks put in. I heard someone, I don't know if it was a diving group or something, a real tragedy happened recently where a bunch of cave divers went to the Maldives or something, and I think Florida. That was sad. I saw that, there was this cave diver on Twitter who was really experienced, and he was like, they should have never been there. Scam artist accidentally solved a murder. Was it the Beheaded Valley situation? Because I feel like someone could probably solve that. Personally, I feel like some of the cave divers are just plain stupid. Yeah. I feel like a lot of them, unfortunately, overestimate their own abilities and they don't take seriously how dangerous it really is. Because it is dangerous. I mean, honest to God. You're in an enclosed space with limited oxygen. And there's water. You can't breathe underwater. Like, why are you going into those stupid tight holes? Exactly, yeah. We're not cats or octopus. Exactly. I couldn't do it. I'm claustrophobic. I can't fucking swim. I got heart issues. I got lung issues. I'm just decrepit over here. But, Ooh, X-Files. I do like the X-Files. Oh, I guess I'll turn on my music while we're chilling for a little bit. Oh. But yeah, I'm assuming it's just people overestimating their own abilities and or also diminishing the risks of the situation they want to get involved in. Which is a deadly combination. Mm-hmm. Portal to another dimension. You can't outrun the midnight, man. It's almost midnight for me. Ah, shit. I can't outrun most things, to be honest with you. It's the asthma. I'm like a cheetah. I feel like I could get pretty fast. There's just no stamina there. Like, I'm over here scared of jumping from my bed to the ground, and these guys are squeezing into these holes that can't even fit a newborn baby through them. Exactly! It's crazy. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And I never will. Unless I, somehow, for one, learn how to swim. And somehow cure my claustrophobia. I don't know. Oh, I'm just trying to decide. We'll probably do one more. I don't know. They ate the forbidden meat? Gosh. Dude, I'm way too scared of the water. Oh my god, yeah. I have thalassophobia. Dude, this is so embarrassing. When I was little, I hated taking baths. I only wanted to shower because my mom, when she would, add the bubble bath, I was always afraid there was going to be cookie cutter sharks in there because I have a phobia of sharks. I love sharks. They're the coolest things ever. I love them. I know they're not bloodthirsty monsters. I know all of that. However, when I was little, and it's still, I get the fear kind of now on occasion, I was terrified of sharks. And I knew that cookie cutter sharks existed. There's small sharks could feasibly fit in a bathtub. And my little toddler fucking brain was like, since I cannot see the bottom of this tub, there are automatically going to be cookie cutter sharks in there. And they are going to bite the shit out of me. Big bodies of water make my water spike my blood pressure by a lot. Oh god, same. Dude, I was scared of the idea where I'd close my eyes while showering and then I open oh my god, dude. Same. Shit's terrifying. I blame the media. I blame it. Inserting ideas into my brain to make me more scared. God damn it. But yeah, the cookie cutter shark thing also got tremendously worse when my mom took me to a fair or something, and I can't remember, it was finger painting or something. I did something with my hands, needed to wash, I think it was paint, off, and they had this paint bucket of dirty water, and I could not see the bottom. Oh, I was so scared. And it's a bucket. There's not gonna be anything in it, but my little brain was convinced there were mini sharks gonna nibble at me and bite me. The fact I live in the Caribbean where water is all around me, so I can't ignore it. Oh god. I live in Canada next to the ocean, and I come from a landlocked location. I never had this issue before, but holy shit, yeah. When we're driving and we're right next to it, I'm like, oh god. There's a movie where sharks appear from every water body. See, that was my brain as a toddler. If it was cloudy water or I could not see directly everything, I was afraid of it. It was terrible. And my mom was like, oh my god, please get your shit together. I felt so bad. I don't remember exactly what its name was, but if you left a cup of water out, a shark would bust through and eat you. I think it was called Ghost Shark Movie. Oh my god, that's hilarious. That's what I was convinced of as a toddler. Oh god. My entire goal in life was, I'll go check for it later and I'll let you know if I get anything. Okie dokie. My entire goal in life, when I was little, and still kind of is, whatever, I wanted to become a vet. Love animals. I just love animals. Even bugs, though I also have a phobia of bugs, so that kind of sucks. But I was studying animals and shit, all animals. I realized, later in life that I don't have the emotional, what's it called? I am too emotionally fragile for that line of work. But anyway, when I would be reading my little animal books, right, with all the fucking I'd be so afraid to touch the sharks. I'd be convinced they would somehow reach out and bite me. I was a little fiend to myself. I loved them. They were cool as shit. I loved looking at them, but I was convinced if I touched them, oh, they were gonna come to life. It was all gonna be over. And then, oh my god, when I discovered bull sharks at a very young age, I'm sure you know, they can go in fresh water. So my mom would be like, they can't fucking be in fresh water. I'd be like, no, bull sharks can. And she's like, I fucking cannot stand you right now. Just trying to argue with a very scared child. Like, oh, sharks can't be in fresh water. You'll be fine. I'll be like, oh, actually, the bull shark can be in fresh water. Your poor mom. You're set in your ways. Literally. We had other issues, but like, holy shit, I do feel for her in a lot of ways, because I was just a problem in some areas. The problem with having a very scared but very knowledgeable child, but applying that knowledge in toddler logic is horrible. Like, I know there's smaller sharks that can fit in a bathtub, so obviously they're gonna appear, right? Totally. Mom versus well-informed 3-year-old about sharks, who will win, exactly. There's no winning. It's like, I have the knowledge, but I'm unfortunately applying the wrong type of logic to it. Like this landlocked lake. There can't be a bull shark in there. Actually, mother, there could be. There definitely could be. Oh, fuck. Ridiculous. Buy a chicken? Oh, I kind of want another really spooky. That's an hour. I can't do an hour. The shark might have found a cave connecting the lake to the sea, Mom. Exactly. You get it. Oh, God. The shark might have spawned in the lake, Mom. It's Minecraft logic. It's so... Looking back on it, it's so funny. Oh my god. I applied such a weird logic to a lot of things, too. Like, not just anything I was scared of in a book. If I touched it, it would come to life. Oh my god. It's so ridiculous. It wasn't just sharks, anything. Bugs, too, because I have a phobia of bugs. I think they're really cool. I love beetles. But I run. I run. Uncontrollably. Oh my god. Oh, dinosaurs are still... I would become a paleontologist if I lived in an area where it could be feasible. Oh, oh my god. Yeah. I once had a nightmare. I have 2 siblings. I once had a nightmare that we were all being chased by a T-Rex, and they split off without me, and the T-Rex decided to keep chasing me, and then I, like, wedged myself in, like, a smallish area, and I... like, in the dream, and it was fucking crazy, because when I woke up, anyways, in the dream, it, like, grabbed the back of my calf with its teeth and was trying to pull me out. When I woke up, I could still feel the fucking teeth. Ugh. Shit made me absolutely horrified of them coming back. The YouTube videos fueled it for me. Yeah, I still love them. Ugh. I don't live in an area where paleontology is, like, a super well-established... Alright, well-established isn't the word I'm looking for, but it's not like... We don't have a lot of fossils here, so there's no point in becoming a paleontologist here. Top 5 dinosaurs that might be returning in a few years. Number 5, the T-Rex. Oh, jeez. That would be so fucking crazy. Oh, right, I did open one. Had me shaking. I don't know if I ever really watched those videos. I watched... Oh my god, I was such an outdoor kid. Riley always finds it funny because the things he grew up with on YouTube, I did not watch them. Like, Smosh in its early stage, I did not watch them. Because I was just outside all the time. And when I was on YouTube, I would just watch speed paints and listen to music. It was very funny. I started watching stuff at around 10 or so. Yeah. I started really getting into, like, online stuff at, like, I think 12 or 13. But I was still like in the infancy stages, I guess, where I wasn't really that ingrained. I'd watch cat videos. There's other people who are like, oh, you know, you would have grown up around this. Like, nah, I was feeding the stray cats outside and sitting down with them. Oh, goodness. Cat videos are goated, yeah.
Today.
Go. It's a shame when they're auto-generated, but that's okay. It's okay. Turn off my music. Let me take a drink of water.
Today's story is about a rugged 86-year-old man who decides to head off into the wilderness to try to do something that nobody else before him had ever been able to do. In fact, some had even died trying. But before we get into that story,
sounds familiar.
If you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, please sneak into the like button's house and replace all of their baby carrots with regular-sized carrots. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story.
I love anyone that uses hand gestures. I talk with my hands a lot, but obviously you can't see. So when someone else has a bunch of hand gestures, I'm like, yes, the kinship is there. Yes, the attacks towards the like button. Get 'em. Attack it brutally.
On an early morning in August of 1931, an 86-year-old man carrying a massive backpack limped into a supply store in the tiny town of Alvin, British Columbia, Canada. This man's name was Robert Brown, but everyone knew him as Volcanic, because decades earlier he had discovered a gold mine in Volcanic City, Canada. Volcanic had actually made his living as a gold prospector, and he had been so good at it that he had been able to retire early. And so these days, as an 86-year-old man, he pretty much got to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. And so inside of this supply store, the young man at the cash register smiled at Volcanic and offered to let him keep his backpack at the front of the store while Volcanic shopped. And Volcanic kind of scowled back at him. I mean, he took offense to this. He knew how he must look to this clerk. I mean, Volcanic was old, short, super skinny, and he dragged his left foot when he walked. And so he figured, you know, this kid must think he's weak. And Volcanic hated that. He did not think he was weak. And so he said to the guy, no, I can carry my bag myself. Thank you very much. Then
I'll be right back in a bit. Gonna walk around, maybe think about when I'll make my third cake. Right on, man. Also, enjoy the cake when you make it.
And to show the clerk there was more to him than met the eye, Volcanic flashed this big grin, revealing this gaudy, enormous set of gold teeth that he had bought when he had struck it rich in Volcanic City. And after seeing these ridiculous gold teeth, the clerk looked very taken aback, which was exactly what Volcanic wanted. Satisfied, Volcanic limped past the cash register and the clerk towards the back of the store, where he picked up some cooking supplies, ammo for his shotgun, and a pen to write in his journal. And then he took everything up front to check out. Volcanic watched as the clerk furrowed his brow as he rang up the items, clearly trying to make sense of what Volcanic was up to. He asked Volcanic if he was going camping by the Pit River that ran through town. But Volcanic said no. He was going to the Pit River first, but he was going to hike all the way along the Pit River, go through the mountains to another body of water called Stave Lake. And before the clerk could ask any questions, Volcanic said he was going there because there was a hidden gold mine he was going to explore. And at this, Volcanic watched with delight as the clerk's eyes got wide. Volcanic knew most people, especially in this area, thought this gold mine was a total myth. And sure enough, when the clerk recovered from his surprise, he said to Volcanic, like, hey, you really ought to reconsider going there. The clerk said he had seen plenty of people come through his shop on the way out to go try to find this mine, but nobody ever came back saying they had found it. In fact, he said that some of these people didn't come back at all. At least 2 people had died because the hike to Stave Lake was miles and miles through extremely dangerous terrain. Volcanic waited until the clerk was done lecturing him, and then he leaned over the counter and he whispered to the kid that he was different. He had a secret that would allow him, and only him, to find that mine successfully. And when he did, he would come back to the store and he would lay the gold down right on the counter just to prove it to him. Then Volcanic left a handful of cash on the counter, he gathered up his supplies, flashed one more gold-toothed smile, and then made his way out the door. A few hours later, Volcanic hiked uphill along the rocky banks of the Pitt River. He'd only covered about 5 miles so far, because after all, he was 86 with a bum left foot, and so he moved pretty slowly these days. But even still, only 5 miles into the journey, he already felt totally cut off from civilization. The Pitt River was about 1,000 feet across, and it was surrounded on either side by a thick forest. Volcanic was hiking parallel with the river, with the water on his right and the trees on his left. It was a stark and isolated setting that would make most people feel small and vulnerable. But after so many years working as a gold prospector, Volcanic was very accustomed to being out in the wilderness all by himself, so this felt normal. Now, of course, decades had passed since the last time Volcanic was a gold prospector, but even now, at his old age, he still felt like he was the skilled outdoorsman he once was. Volcanic kept on hiking uphill, staying close to the shore's edge, until the sun began to set. And by that point, the trees on the left had begun to thin out, and Volcanic was finally able to see kind of far out beyond in the direction he was going. And he saw off in the distance there were all these mountains. And as soon as he could see these mountains, he pulled out his journal, and he flipped to the last page, and he studied the page, and then looked at the mountains, and he smiled. It was going to take weeks to reach the gold mine, but he knew he was going the right way. Because on that last page of his journal was a map. This map was the secret that Volcanic had told the store clerk about. It was the thing that was going to allow Volcanic to reach that gold mine where so many others had not. Volcanic had actually drawn the map himself several years ago. Back then, he'd been panning for gold in northern British Columbia when he had run into this indigenous woman in the forest. And this woman was deathly ill, and so out of the kindness of his heart, Volcanic had given this woman some healing herbs and then stayed with her for days until she was nursed back to health. And this woman had been so grateful to Volcanic that she had told him a secret. She told him that the legendary gold mine out near Stave Lake was absolutely real. And she said she knew this because her father was friends with the guy who discovered it. The man's name was Slumac. And she said he would go into the wilderness for days at a time, and then when he came back home, he'd come bearing these huge gold nuggets as big as chicken eggs. And not only did this woman tell Volcanic about this mine, she gave him directions to it. And so as she did, Volcanic took notes in his journal and then used those directions to construct the map. However, before Volcanic parted ways with this woman, she gave him a warning. Right before he died, she said Slumac put a curse on the mine. And so now, if anybody tried to reach the mine, the forest itself would stop them.
So what's his plan? What's his plan when the forest is like, no, you're not doing this?
Before I became a professional, strange, dark, and mysterious storyteller, I served in the military. And during my time in the military, I had some pretty wild experiences. But what I remember most about my time in service was not my own stories, but rather the stories I heard from other service members. Keep in mind, service members are sent to some of the most isolated and treacherous places in the world that very few people go to. And so some of the stories that come out of those places are totally creepy and weird. And even more than that, a lot of these stories sort of stay in-house. They stay in the military just because it's kind of a cultural thing. You know, people don't necessarily want to go out and tell the world about the totally unsettling and inexplicable thing they saw while they were deployed. It's like people might think they were crazy. But there's lots of stories like that. And so if hearing some of those crazy military stories appeals to you, well, boy, do I have a podcast for you. It's called Wartime Stories, and it's hosted by Luke LaManna, who himself is a veteran. He was a reconnaissance Marine, which I can tell you is kind of a big deal. And so because he has access and placement, he's been able to extract some of these stories from the military, and he shares them on the show. And if you wanted to kind of generalize the types of stories you're going to hear on this podcast, it's like the strange, dark, and mysterious meets the battlefield and beyond. The Wartime Stories podcast is free and it's available on any podcast platform. So all you have to do is, go to your favorite platform and look up Wartime Stories, or you can search for Ballin Studios because it's produced under Ballin Studios. You click on the show, give it a follow, and boom, you can start your binge. New episodes drop every Monday, so if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious, well, you got yourself a brand new weekly show. And so now, standing in a clearing beside the Pit River, Volcanic thought back to that warning. He wasn't afraid of what she said, but just to be safe, he figured he would spend as little time as possible in the forest, and any time he needed to pitch his tent along this journey to the mine, he would do so as far away from the tree line as he could. This was actually Volcanic's second attempt at trying to reach this gold mine. 5 years earlier, he had attempted this exact same hike. On that attempt, despite Volcanic reaching the shores of Stave Lake, which apparently was right near the entrance to this gold mine, he had to stop.
Lakes with, like, I guess this is like a submechanophobia thing, kind of. But also not, because I think submechanophobia is like man-made things underwater. Things like this, for instance, with the sticks poking out of the lake, ooh, heebie-jeebies. Heebie-jeebies.
Because he got a severe case of frostbite on his left foot. That frostbite had caused 3 of his toes to die and rot, and so Volcanic had to amputate all 3 of them with his pocket knife right there out in the wild. No anesthetic, nothing. And so this is why Volcanic had to turn around on that attempt, and it's why he now walked with a limp. And Volcanic had to admit that the fact that he had been forced to literally cut off his own toes did make it seem like he had become a victim of Slumac's curse. But he also knew that it didn't take a curse to make the Canadian wilderness dangerous. He just should have worn thicker socks. Just then, Volcanic heard a twig snap somewhere outside of his campsite in the darkness. And so instinctively he shot up, he grabbed a shotgun, and he turned towards the sound, half expecting a bear to come charging out of the woods. But after standing there for several minutes, nothing came out of the forest, and eventually all Volcanic could hear was the gentle sound of his fire and the river. The forest was totally still. As his heartbeat slowed down, Volcanic told himself that, the sound he heard must have just been a rabbit running through the forest, nothing to worry about. And so he lowered his gun and steadied his breathing, and he looked at his fire and he gave half a thought to just leaving his campfire burning, just in case he heard something else, he'd have some light to go out and see what it was. But he thought he was being kind of paranoid, and so he grabbed some water and put out the fire, engulfing him in darkness, and then he climbed into his tent and fell asleep. The next morning, Volcanic got up at sunrise, packed up his tent and his camping gear, and then hiked all day long. And he did this day in and day out, dragging his left foot behind him for over a month.
I have a theory, although I don't know if it's a valid theory. With the limited information I have so far, I think it's the shop clerk that stole his teeth, because he flashed a big old grin. So now the shop clerk knows he has golden teeth, and it's safer to go after the old man than it is to go to the gold mine. That's my theory so far. I could be wrong. I most likely am. But that's my theory.
Volcanic knew he was moving much slower than a younger, healthier man would. Some days, he could barely travel a mile before feeling so exhausted that he would have to stop. But despite becoming skinnier and more ragged by the day, Volcanic kept on hiking. And eventually, after going all the way down the Pit River and crossing through the mountains, he finally arrived at the shore of Stave Lake, the same place he'd been when he'd had to amputate his own toes. But this time, he was able to keep on going. Volcanic hiked all the way to the opposite side of Stave Lake, and he came to a stop to take in the view. Surrounding the lake were all these huge rolling mountains, and in one spot, Volcanic noticed the mountains dipped down and formed a natural bowl in the earth that was filled with this gorgeous bluish-white ice. Now, even though Volcanic had never been to this place before, he knew instinctively that that had to be Stave Glacier. And this glacier meant everything to Volcanic because it was the last major landmark on his map on the way to this mine. According to his map, the entrance to the gold mine was located on the side of a mountain not far from the glacier. Now, Volcanic wanted to keep pushing forward and try to get to this entrance as soon as possible. I mean, he was excited. But the sun was starting to go down, and he knew if he kept on going at night, the risk of injury was quite high. He could slip and fall. And remember, it had taken Volcanic over a month to hike into this location. He is way away from civilization, and so if he gets hurt, nobody's coming to help him. And so he decided he would stop and make camp that night. He pitched his tent well away from the tree line, he ate some beef jerky and biscuits, and then he crawled into his sleeping bag to try to go to sleep. But he couldn't. He was too excited about this mine. He was so close. And so he laid there restlessly for hours, listening to the sound of the wind pick up outside.
The only problem with this is then he has to make the trip back with gold, which is going to be significantly more difficult And he's already struggling. Hmm.
Now, normally, the sound of the wind would help Volcanic fall asleep, but tonight it was not helping. It was actually making him feel really uneasy. The wind was loud and fast, howling across the lake, and that's when Volcanic noticed that despite all the noise outside, when he looked at the fabric of his tent, it wasn't moving with the wind. It was totally stationary. And so Volcanic sat up and he opened up the flap of his tent and looked outside. And the second he did, it got even louder, the howling wind. But he couldn't feel any wind blowing. And so he struck a match and he held it out in front of his tent, and the flame didn't even flicker, again, despite all this crazy howling sounds. And that's when he realized there was no wind. And so feeling totally unsettled, Volcanic closed the flap of his tent, got back in his sleeping bag, clutching his gun, listening to this horrifying sound outside that he couldn't make any sense of. And then by the morning, when the sun came up, the sound just went away. By this point, Volcanic was so anxious just to leave and go to this mine that he didn't eat any breakfast. He just grabbed his journal, tore the map out of the last page, tucked it in his back pocket, and he started hiking. He still felt very uneasy about the phantom wind he had heard all night long, but now his sole focus was on this mine. He knew that if he could find it, he would not only have infinite riches, but he would also go down in history as like the greatest gold prospector ever. And on top of that, on the way back out again, he could stop at that supply store and drop some gold on the counter and rub it in that clerk's face, just like he said he would. Volcanic made his way first towards the glacier and then up the side of a mountain. He dodged tree limbs and climbed over boulders, all the while dragging his left foot on the ground. And then finally, up ahead, he saw this dark hole on the side of a mountain, and it looked like the entrance to a cave. Now, Volcanic could not see very far into that cave, but he was certain the gold mine had to be inside of there. And so with a rush of excitement, he made his way up to the dark entryway, and he stepped inside. 2 months later, on November 2nd, 1931, that store clerk back in Alvin looked out the front window of his store and watched the snow begin to fall. A blizzard was coming in, and all this clerk could think about was that strange old man with the gold teeth who had wandered off into the wilderness.
Okay, I think I was wrong. Don't be alarmed. It happens a lot.
3 months earlier. Now, the old man had told the clerk that he would stop by the store on his way out to prove he had found the gold. However, the man had not returned. And so the clerk wasn't sure if that was because, he was too embarrassed because he hadn't found the mine, or if maybe he had gotten stuck out in the wilderness. But either way, the clerk just had a bad feeling that, something bad could have happened to that guy. And so just to play it safe, the clerk grabbed his jacket, he left the store, and he went to go find the local game warden to tell him what was going on. 3 weeks later, that same game warden trudged through knee-high snow at the edge of Stave Lake. Even though he and his search party were much younger and healthier than Volcanic, it had still taken them weeks to arrive here, mostly because of the blizzard. But in all the time it took hiking to this location, they had not found a single trace of Volcanic. The warden was beginning to wonder if this was pointless, if they should just turn around and head back. And that's when he looked up and he noticed the glacier on the far end of the lake. And in the snow near that glacier was this little pop of color. The warden pointed it out to his men, and they all began running towards it. And as they got closer, they realized what this thing was a tent that had collapsed under the snow. And then once they actually reached the tent, they shoveled off all the snow and sort of popped it back up, and they looked inside. But Volcanic was not in there. Instead, they found an empty sleeping bag, they found some cooking supplies, a shotgun, some ammo, and a journal that's last page was missing. But there was also one more thing that was inside of this tent. On the floor, right near the opening flap of this tent, was a glass jar. The warden picked it up, and he looked inside, and he gasped. Volcanic Brown was never seen again, and no explanation for what happened to him was ever uncovered. His body was never found, and there were no signs of struggle anywhere in or near his campsite. But the contents of that glass jar that was found inside of the tent proved that either Slumac's gold mine or Slumac's curse was real. There are two slightly different versions of what people believe was found inside of that jar. The first is that the jar was filled with huge nuggets of raw gold. If this is true, it means the gold mine did exist, and Volcanic must have found it before he disappeared. But the second version of what people say was found in that jar has a much darker meaning. In that version, when the warden held up that jar, he did see gold inside, but it was not gold from the mine. Instead, it was Volcanic's solid gold teeth. Almost 100 years have passed since Volcanic went missing,
and still to this day, no one has ever successfully found the mine and lived to tell the tale. But to this day, people still keep looking for it, and so far, at least 33 people have either died or disappeared in search of it.
Yeah.
And now, a clip from the newest episode.
I'm a bit sad that the old man did not live, but only because that means his segment was kind of fabricated a little bit. The wind was fabricated. I am sad. I mean, it could have been fabricated regardless, but you get my point. But I think I am going to end it there. It has been 3 hours of just chilling, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very good time. I'm glad the alerts work, or at least the the singular alert works. I'm assuming if that one works, the rest do, and that's good enough for me for right now. But yeah, I will try to get the currency and stuff transferred over, so YouTube can also partake in the fun. I will try. I make no promises because StreamerBot is very confusing, but also you can do a lot with it, is why. I am hoping that there might be a way. There is like currency that I can add, and I have technically added it. I just don't know how it works. And I also don't know about our little gambling games. I don't know about that. I'm trying. I'll definitely have to look up guides, but yeah, I'm gonna end it there for right now. I don't know what I'm gonna be streaming on Friday or Saturday. I'll figure it out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see y'all later. Bye-bye.